them as well. What a move from the 48. Oh, look at this, and onto the straight they come.
Brilliant move there from the number 40 to make it through. That left-hander sliding up the inside, going up now over Hawthorne Hill, down Pilgrim's Drop, and it's brilliant stuff here at Brands Hatch.
Your Monday night starts right here on RaceSpotTV, and it starts here with a circuit that is tricky as we walk into the second half of the season. Drops now have been applied to championship scores, and the lay of the land looks a little bit different to how it was previously. Welcome to Wine County out here. It's Sonoma. I'm Jake Sperry, Nathan Richards, along with me for the ride today. And Nathan, a circuit that has seen it all, done it all, has had many different names. It is named after the nearest town, Sonoma, as we find ourselves on the north side of the bay here, out there of this bay area, San Pablo Bay, the bay, of course, on the other side of it, the city of San Francisco.
Certainly, it's great to be back here at Sonoma, of course, a very historic track in the world of R-racing. Many series have been here before, and we're back here as we only have 5 rounds to go in this season, of course. We're here for our penultimate technical round, of course. The next time we're back for the technical type of racing is when we go to Detroit's Belle Isle, one of the newer tracks on our racing. But of course, in between those two, we have Mosport and then Miami in round 10, of course, our final endurance race of the season. And then, for me, Jake, in my opinion, one of the best ways to end off a season, we have a feature race or feature event at Watkins Glen.
We very much do, so keep an eye out on that as it all sits. James Boumet then and his teammate Nikolai Pearlison on 1,936 points respectively. Pearlison has burnt through his drop rounds, he's got none left, so keep an eye out on that. Anders Mira in third position with Alexander Davidson fourth and Lucas Prada then in fifth. They're split by just 8. Then got Leander Gabrielson in 6th. He's keeping this one afloat with Jack Sedgwick 7th and Aidan Young 8th in the championship as Dennis Grabowski and Ross McFarlane make up the top 10, with McFarlane done for the season. Aiden Carter, on the measure of his 3 Pro-Am victories, finds himself on top by 50-odd points, as he knows that William Guthrie is going to be the one who will have to chase those 48 points down. Michael Gray, a little ways away in third, now battling Tommy Vidal and Ivan Turnison in 4th and 5th. Ben Cullen and Ben Altria still in the battle of the Bens in 6th and 7th, with Taylor Lane for Misfits Racing in 8th, Josh Boot 9th, and Phil Samways rounding out the top 10 of Pro-Am. In the Am standings, those 4 wins for Tristan Engelstad means he has a slender 10-point margin over Janus Schultain, whose consistency has really been telling. Simon Andre Livingston still very much in the fight as well at RAA Simsport 2. Jocko Vonderlit is 4th in the championship, with the likes of Eric Hartmann and Jacques Eva 5th and 6th. Benjamin Gregory finds himself 7th with Dean Timms in 8th. That then leads to Gianni Teher, and then finally Howard Hassan making up the top 10 in the category. If you look over the team standings as well, it's a very close fight for Adidas Racing by WSR and Falcon Sim Racing Team, and Falcon Sim Racing Team having to do their effort with 2 drivers only, so really up against it. RAA Simsport 1 in 3rd, with Altitude Frame Esports Pure Sims, WSR Veterans, and then at WSR Esports there in 6th. Altitude Frame Esports then leads Altitude Frame Esports Mr. Hedge, as Venari Racing and Atomic Esports are 9th and 10th in category. Over in the AMs, just the 9 teams there, but still a really close battle between RAA Simsport 2 and Fry Guys Motorsport, as the 2 Full Tilts, V Motorsport over Full Tilt Motorsport proper, 3rd and 4th, with Quad Dash Racing and Epic Sim Racing 5th and 6th. Empire Motorsport find themselves 7th, with Rao Racing X Project 91 Academy there in 8th, and Boosthead Motorsport, the team of Benjamin Gregory, they're making up the 9 in the Team AM standings. Qualifying has already been conducted, and critically it's Lucas Prada who's got himself the control, and a time of 1:26.8 is going to be huge, with James Boumet alongside for company. Jack Sedgwick starts 3rd, and the Pro-Am driver as listed for today, his first start, Alex Rogers, is out there in the 77 in 4th position. Nice to see a new name up in the field, with Aidan Young and Anders Mira then in 5th and 6th for this 30-minute race. Michael Evdoka and Nikolai Perlison then are 7th and 8th, with Aiden Carter starting 9th and Axel Slijevcevic then rounding out your top 10 for Altitude Frame Esports. You then got Arthur Thurtle and William Guthrie then on row 6. Row 7 will see Michael Gray and Tommy Vidal, with Fraser Smith in the 66th, 15th, and Leander Gabrielson then in 16th position, as Adam Watson and Ivan Turnison will make it 3 RAA Simsport cars in a line. David Baker will have Josh Boot rounding out the top 20 next to him, as your AM pole sitter is Janus Schultain. He will have Jan Dufner for company in 22nd, as Ben Altria and Phil Samways will house row 12 of the grid. Cars will now be allowed to roll off, as Tristan Engelstad, the AM leader, is in 25th, with Ben Bennyworth for Quartermass alongside. Taylor Lane and Simon Andre Livingston then have row 14, with Benjamin Gregory and Ben Cullen having their own battle at the bend. Seems that he fights with every bend as Ben Cullen. Jesse Payne Wilkins and Jocko Vonderlit on row 16, with Jacques Eva directly behind his teammate there, Colin Sansom last car to set a time, and both Harrison Crofer and Dennis Grabowski had exclusions from qualifying to serve, so they find themselves down at the back, as does 007 Andy Shield, who will have his work to do from 37th position on the grid. Very hilly circuit, and today, as far as circuits go, it's pretty ideal for Sonoma this time of year. 33 degrees. You normally expect it to be a bit hotter than this.
Yeah, certainly. And I think with the way the track flows as well, there's lots of opportunities for overtaking, especially at the start of the race when, of course, with it being only 30 minutes, drivers who are a little bit further down have to get moves done early. And, of course, if no Alexander Davidson here this evening, that's a great chance for Lucas Prada to jump up in the championship and hopefully hold on to that P1. But, of course, last time out in Kota, in that endurance race, it was the black flag that he got with only a couple of laps to go. So he's got to steer clear of the incident points today, and of course he's got James Bowmey right on the back of him, who we know will be fighting up at the top. So we'll see what goes on here for the first of 2 races here this evening. 30 minutes, it's a bit of a sprint race, so the drivers are probably, Jake, going to push a little bit more than what we saw at the start of that Kota race last week.
Yes, I expect there's going to be a lot of aggressiveness, especially up the hill to turn number 2. You can see them rejoining down through turn 6 onto the drag strip here and immediately back off of it to go to turn number 7, a double apex right of a hairpin where you carry the speed and momentum in through this right at the top of the drag strip and then cross back for the very finickety S's section that sets itself into play. And that run down through the S's, I think, separates a good driver from a great driver.
Certainly. It's a tricky track. It's flowing, but you've got to put your car in the right place. If you get the car a little bit too much on the inside of some of these apexes, it's very easy to drift out wide. And of course, when you've got cars there with you, it does make it a bit of a task to keep both of the cars on track. But of course, the thing I want to keep an eye on is Alex Rogers, of course, brand new to the series in the Pro-Am class, and chucks it straight on P4, a 10th and a half off of the time of Lucas Prada. Now that is not a time to be messing around with, so I'm very intrigued to see what Rogers can do today in the black Ferrari. It's going to be a big opener for him, and maybe he's a little bit too low down in class of where he should be if he keeps this up over the course of the season.
Yep, so as far as the season goes, that's going to be a really important battle that we will be needing to see. So that's going to be strong, and now keep an eye out then as far as this one will set. They will round what was colloquially known in NASCAR circles as Gilligan's Island. Down there on the bottom, they had so many entries one year that they had to line some of the pits down on the infield rather than the outside. That's why they call it that. Lucas Prada gets the jump he needs. Green flag drops, and we're underway then and running here for 30 minutes. Immediate aggressive turns then being put into play. Sedgwick already jumps himself up to 3rd. They work into turn 2 for the first time. Carter back there in 10th, and it's a clean start then through the opening stages. Now to turns 3 and 4 as you work on through, or 3A, 3B, and over into turn 4 and 3 wide down the hill into that 4th corner, and critically dancing on through is Aidan Young. What a start!
That was a perfect start there for Aidan Young. Got through on a couple of cars which at the moment seem a little bit slower than him, as Pedersen there kneeling to the barriers, hopping over the grass there in the Mercedes, just dropped down to P9 here and will be under pressure from Axel Slijepcevic, but off the track as well for Nikolai Pedersen, and not the sort of start he would have wanted, down to P11. And of course, with it being such a short race, you can't afford to have these incidents early on.
Well, brushing the wall with the newbie, that's not a great way to ingratiate yourself if you're Alex Rogers. That was not ideal off of the start, but they've worked through and managed it now as they work through the fast right of 8A and over towards turn 9. Fraser Smith here in 13th, looks behind at Michael Gray and Leander Gabrielson. Gabrielson very heavily out of position. Oh, there goes Gray, who goes off at turn 10 and into the barriers.
Dear me, what a shame for Michael Gray. I was just going to say, he had a decent start in this race. Never mind, that's all undone on the opening lap, and also gets given a meatball flag. So back to the pits for Michael Graham. Well, we'll have to try and do something in that second race later on this evening. But from those at the front, apart from what happened with Rogers and Pedersen, are quite a clean start. And you can see there, Michael Gray probably still quite cold tyres, a lack of grip through turn 10. Loses it completely, and it just shows sometimes going on that wider line, the car doesn't like it at all. You unsettle it and straight into the barriers you go around here. There's not much runoff. Well, there is, but there's a lot of barriers around the runoff.
Yeah, and the one other thing that you got to note around this place is that Audi with the short wheelbase is very prone to snapping round. So you got to be very alert driving a car like that around here with these long sweeping corners. Rogers looking to get back here at Michael Ev Docker in the WSR Veterans Mustang. The Ferrari can't quite manage to find a move through, and so we'll have to stay in line with Aidan Carter directly behind here in the battle for the AM lead. For the moment, James Boomey's okay at the moment, just blinking about, so that will be cause for concern at the moment. Rogers running slightly wide, now opens up Aidan Carter here for turn 10, leading to Gilligan's Island at turn 11 to try and make the move. Was also worth noting, Dennis Grabowski had to come into the pit at the end of the first lap. He was missing the rear spoiler.
Not a good start either for Grabowski. Rather, that seems that he gets caught up in a bit too much at the start of races. That's what I've seen, and not saying it's his fault, but he unfortunately gets caught up in a lot. And I suppose sometimes you have that look over a season. The first couple of rounds don't go too well, and then it all starts to fall apart. as the rounds go on, as there is Alex Rogers still trying to make that move back ahead of Michael Evdoka, who is always around that P5, P6 area, has got some decent pace, but it does seem that Rogers is a tad bit quicker, just can't find that move here. 26 minutes to go in this opening race, and here's what happened to Grabowski on the opening lap. All got caught up, and, well, a little tap, and so it knocked that rear wing off, but that was the slightest of taps between himself and I believe it would have been Harrison Crowther there who got into contact, and yeah, not good at all for Grabowski. And I don't think it was Crowther, I think it might have been the car behind.
Yeah, so Denis Grabowski obviously understanding that the opening lap of the race really put him wrong place, wrong time, and he knew it was tough. He was alongside Simon Andre Livingston as he went down the inside, just lost the back end, got into the side of him, and then also having his own half spin there at the same time would have been Taylor Lane from Misfits Racing. There is Crowther up 11 and having a really nice start. Josh Boot in the middle of it at the moment for Empire. He's looking around here at Ivan Turnison and trying to work at whether he can jump through and gain a place, but noting that Ben Altria is just behind, looking to pick up some scraps if he can. The Lamborghini pulls away through turn 12.
Of course, a nice run there from Turnison through in towards the final corner, then back up towards turn 1. And of course, through here, it's so difficult to make a move. This is probably the section where you can't. After this, there's some opportunities, especially down towards turn 4. Of course, turn 3 is a tricky one. Unless a car runs a little bit wide, you might be able to sneak it up the inside here. But your best bet is down into this braking zone. If you can, try and sneak a move. There's Josh Boots, who's really closing in on the back of Turnison, but makes a slight mistake on the exit of turn 4. And of course, loses a heap of time due to that. But Turnison is also looking to make the move ahead of Jan Duffner, who's in that Mercedes ahead. Can't quite find a way through, and I suppose even though the track's quite wide and there's a couple of opportunities, if you can defend your car quite well, it's still so difficult to make a move, and that's what we saw all season with these GT3s. If you're good at defence, it's so difficult for cars to attack.
If you're William Guthrie, though, you think you had a half chance sweeping through the S's now and turn 8 and turn 8A. You get this dip through and you go back up over the top of the crest. So easy to understeer through there, and once you come back down the hill off of there through turn 9, it's a little bit easier as you work to turn number 10 and continue on the charge. So that's giving you a lot of sense of where everyone needs to be. A train, by the way, this one, that you can argue is going all the way back to Schultain and Crowther and Phil Samways down at the back, that all sits itself in line. So they're all trying to work out whether they've got the right pace, whether they've got it all set up as Fraser Smith up the hill into turn number 2, middle of the road at the moment in 12th place. A gain of 3 is good, but you're also keeping an eye out on that reverse grid for the hour that will be coming up after this first race here. This, of course, being round 12 of the championship, round 13 immediately following.
Of course, and we've seen so many times, you know, in the past couple of seasons where you get one of your Pro-Am drivers or one of your pros in some cases who starts on that pole after the reverse grid and sometimes have a good chance of holding on to it. They might not hold on to the win or the top 3, but they can still get a decent result and give them some great points. Of course, yes, they've got their own standings, but they follow the overall standings and they get the points for which position they finish. It's not points per, you know, class, it's for the overall spot, as Adam Watson there looking for a move as they make their way through. And a little bit of a slide as well on the exit of turn 6, and that's going to lose him time to the car behind, who is Tommy Vidal, looking to go forward, but looking through as well at the position changes at the start. Harrison Crowther, I think, is up by 11 spots in this race, which is a really good job from him.
Yeah, he's done well. Adam Watson there had 2 big ragtag nibbles over at Leander Gabrielsen, couldn't get his move, and Tommy Vidal, or Tommy Fast as his nickname is, gets a lot of fan following out in the YouTube chat. He's someone who wants to try and jump up and gain some places here and say, look, I am part of this battle and I want to show it. Leader in Pro-Am, we know Alex Rogers. Leader in Am is Janis Schulte. At the moment, he's got himself a 2-car gap over Simon Andre Livingston in second, who is still very much in the party, but Tommy Vidal here over to turn 3 and turn 4. The McLaren here very nimble, but the Mustang I think is going to be really good today at dealing with the very high curbs at Sonoma.
Yeah, definitely. The curbs are a killer around here. And of course, another thing to note as well is if you do take a lot of the curb, you've got to be careful, because right next to the curb is the grass, and that can throw your car off instantly, especially some of those that are quite snappy. A lot of these GT3s I've noticed that are very snappy, or the setups are built to be quite snappy, just because driving an unstable car normally is the quickest way to drive it here on iRacing. So that's something as well the drivers have got to keep an eye on, not just the curbs but the grass that lies just on the inside of them, as Andy Shield there dropping down the field in the Porsche off into the barriers, and that is not good for him. He was running up in the top 20 as well, and now drops all the way down to the rear of the field. There's a great battle here, and Bennyworth is one of the drivers in the midst of it.
It's happened all on his own, going through at turn 6, and he's managed to get himself up over onto the banking, and I don't quite know whether he'd beached himself or not, or whether he had enough to go with it. He has towed the car back to the pits, and so Andy Shield, I think, has written his day off then in this first race. Good battling here as Cullen brings himself in. Here's a look at Shield. Turn 6, very difficult. You've got to wait to put the power down, and that Porsche is always very slippery. Just as he's about to put it down, he tries to catch it once, catch it twice, and he departs stage right.
And it looks like for a moment he does catch the car, but he overcorrects it, and then of course the car goes spinning off into the grass, and luckily didn't get any damage from that, or at least didn't get much damage at least, compared to what he could have got if he hit the barriers. So I suppose a little bit of a let-off there for Shield in some sense, as we're making our way back down towards turn number 4, and car still having a battle here. So that of course is Phil Samway is looking to go forward here in this one. Of course ahead of him is Janos Scholten, the leader of the AM category. So of course for him, he wants to make moves, but he wants to be a little bit careful of what he does do, because there's no point getting yourself into contact and issues when you're the leader of your own class. You don't really need to fight that much with those around you at this point in the race, as we've still got 20 minutes to go, so about a third of the way through here. And up at the front, Jake, very, very calm, but I'm not going to lie, I didn't expect that. I thought it'd be a lot more feisty up in those top 10 positions. After lap 1, it really calmed down, didn't it, after Alex Rogers dropped back?
Yeah, Bennyworth then and Engelstad on screen at the moment, with the likes then of Jocko Vonderlit and Ben Cullen then just in front for effect simulations. That was a blink about there for Engelstad, who is leading the AM Championship. He's got to try and make some moves here as they find themselves stuck on the Gregory train at this moment, unable to find a way through as far as it stands, working through the very tight confines here that makes it feel like a street circuit to start, up through turn number 1 and into turn number 2. Very late braking zone up the hill, and because it plateaus through the middle of the apex, it's again another corner easy to run wide at. This is possibly one of the toughest circuits in California, and it's very difficult to say that when you've got the WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca in this region.
Yeah, certainly two very difficult tracks quite close together here in the USA. And of course, I've got to say, though, I'm surprised that Tristan Engelstad is so far down. Of course, his results in the past 4 or 5 races have been mental. You know, he's always been up there fighting for the win, and now he's P4 in class. He does not want to be off the podium, especially after just taking the championship lead, and he's only 10 points ahead of Janos Scholten, who's leader of that class. So lots of pressure on Tristan Engelstad here to keep that lead of the championship, at least heading out of this round and heading into the second race we have here at Sonoma later on. And here is our race leader, Lucas Prado, who's doing a very comfortable job out in front ahead of James Bowman, and Aidan Young there in third, looking to try and take a podium. And of course, knowing that they have a decent, nearly 2-second gap ahead of Jack Sedgwick and those below, there's no need for Aidan Young here to try and fight James Bowman so early on, because they can just keep building that buffer. They know they're better on pace at top 3. They can get themselves more of a buffer and then fight towards the end of the race. There's no point doing it now, and then with 15 minutes to go, you've let everybody else close back in.
Fraser Smith getting a bit busy here. He's giving a little bit of food for thought to Nikolai Pearlison there in the 2-4-2. So with behind that, William Guthrie wanting in as well. You're thinking, how many more places am I potentially dropping? It's again slightly wide off the exit of 6. Goes Pearlison to defend it over at turn 7. Leaves no channel for attack, but Fraser looking to lunge for that inside, or almost clipping the rear quarter panel there. But Fraser Smith, knowing what his limits are, he's close, but close doesn't get a pass done, and Pearlison here is on a damage limitation night by the looks of it.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like he's got that pace that we saw last time out in Kota, or at least what we've seen over the season for Nikolai Bernardson. So we'll see what he can do to close off the end of this one. Still around halfway to go here, 16 minutes left in the first race here at Sonoma. So yes, as you said, Jake, damage limitation.
Watson and Gabrielson really going at it, and Watson can't get the turn that he wants. Gabrielson just feeds him a one line only on the outside if you want to hold it. I think Adam Watson might chuck it up the inside and say, for your what for, out there, barging his way through there with that style of saying, I'm not happy with it. Gabrielson's not going to be happy too. This is going to end in tears between these two. At 3A, there's the pass. Watson was never going to lift out of that. That's a great pass to get it done, and Gabrielson's got to get his head in the game. Tommy Vidal back there with Dufner and David Baker.
That was a great move there from Adam Watson, and around this track, those are the sorts of moves you need to be making. As further back, there's contact, and Vidal's off the circuit. There was contact with him, and I think it was David Baker headed into the braking zone, and that from the angle we saw looked way too tight into the corner for two cars to go through, and unfortunately Tommy Vidal gets spun round. He's now down to P24 in this one, a big shame for him, and he drops now right down to the rear of his own class.
Nothing that I think Tommy Vidal did wrong there. Jan Dufner was the car down the inside that made the contact and basically just, you know, took a massive amount. You can see he's never fully alongside, and you're going to get dinged for that. And so the number 69 machine, fortunate to not reach the barriers out there over that dormant Bermuda grass that is there on the outside. Very difficult. And so you got to say that for Tommy is going to be a lot of points lost in AM trim, and we'll be hoping that the reverse grid falls his way. But drive is still there for David Baker, the very experienced David Baker, so much so he's been given the moniker of a veteran out there for his WSR team. He knows he's got to start walking up, but I wouldn't say GT is his strongest skill. I think he'd actually do quite a lot better in a TCR car.
Especially the way he's driving over the curbs, for sure, as we hit on the brakes once again. And of course, another thing to keep a note of is that heading into that second race, we have the reverse grid, which of course is on that spinny wheel from 20th to 30th, and then of course potentially a full grid. So of course those that are in the midfield of the 20s, so the likes of, you know, even Tommy Vidal, a good example, 24th, big chance he'll be starting near the front in that second race, which is 60 minutes long. So if you know you've got the pace and you've been caught up in incidents and dropped back, there's a big opportunity to maybe hold on and get some decent points. And of course, from what we've seen so far, I thought there'd be quite a lot of moves around here, but drivers are struggling as Grabowski gets a black flag, so he'll have to go back into the pits. But what we've seen, Jake, is a lot of drivers struggling to make moves and they're having to force it. So Prada, Bomi, Young, etc. They've got so much work to do because the drivers they're trying to get through on are going to cling on to the positions as much as they can, because half of them aren't going to be up in the top 10 every week, are they?
No, and that's what we see with these reverse races. It gives opportunities for others to go and prove what they're all about. Baker and Crowther then together on track, and what running Harrison Crowther is having at the moment. He works through fourth to third to second over the crest and looking to put the power down, hoping it's all settled out nice and neatly. The left and the right of 3 and 3A then over the top of the hill. Highest point of the circuit at 3A before you drop back down once again, looking over at turn number 4. And this is where I think you're just having to be very academical about the way you race at Sonoma, because you've got massive amounts of elevation change, forcing the car to do things that it doesn't necessarily want to do. And so you're hoping for a piece of flat that goes and gets the move, which is the big braking zone here at turn 7.
Of course, it is a very roller coaster-like track as that move's happening further behind, and David Baker gets a tap around. Oh, what a shame for David Baker as he goes his way through. I think it was Josh Boot as well caught up in that as well, and a couple of other drivers had to slow down heavily due to that one. But what a shame there for David Baker, who just fell down the field slightly.
Yeah, Turnerson caught up in it, and not the way that Harrison Crowther wants to ingratiate himself after missing the last 2 rounds of the season with penalty. And so he just gets to the inside, taps in round. Turnerson with nowhere to go, just drives straight into the side of the Nokia 3310 of race cars that is that Ford Mustang, and Baker down into the pits then with damage is going to have to try and get that repaired as soon as possible. Down to under 12 minutes to go, and still the focus here on Pearlison defending against Fraser Smith and William Guthrie.
Of course, some great racing still going on here around Sonoma. Keep an eye on this battle here for 11th, 12th and 13th. Of course, Guthrie got caught up in quite a lot in Kota last time, mate. He never got a break. It seems today is going a little bit better for him at the moment. 11 minutes to go in this race, so I don't think we're going to see many big moves in terms of drivers finding loads of places now. I think it's all about just trying to get those 1 or 2 final spots to end off your race. It seems out front in the, for Lucas Prada and James Bomey, of course, Prada's got a nice 1 second lead and he's still pulling away, so he now looks quite comfortable to probably take the win home here. I don't think James Bomey's going to have enough to get the move done, because all it means is, first of all, he's got to find a few tenths per lap now for the final 11 minutes, but then also have to make the move, which Prada's not going to let James Bomey do. So Lucas Prada there, big advantage heading into the end of this one, and then of course the same can go for Bomey ahead of Aidan Young as well. I don't think there's any fights from Young behind, so I think as well that the thing is, these three know that next race they're starting near the back anyway. So does it matter if Young really finishes P2? Yes, it's a few more points, but he's not really fighting for the championship, so it doesn't mean that much to really risk your race and drop all the way down the field anyway, does it?
Well, Lucas Prada is 103 points back, so I would say that he is an outside fringe candidate for the championship that James Bomey maybe has to keep note of rather than go out there and absolutely go for it. Fraser Smith there trying to wrestle with the car right now as if he's at the Cow Palace, so very tough for him to try and navigate through there the middle of turn 5 as he works now into turn 6 and looks to get the run off of the exit here. So he's really having to work, and a lot of these drivers will do these first races here, these sprints and features, as they do tend to set themselves out, are lightning strong to go and deal with. There's a bit of side-by-side as one of the full tilt cars then goes for it. This is Janis Scholten, your AM leader, up against Phil Samways, who is going to have to go the long way around that Lamborghini if he wants to get that through, but Samways ultimately can't find a way by. Someone who'd also want to get by here, Tommy Vidal, he's on the back of this now, and he's going to be running like he's in Pamplona.
Indeed, and Vidal had some great pace earlier on before the contact with Jan Duffner, so you'd imagine he'll be easily getting past these two in this one. Vidal most races has a lot of pace, it's just he gets caught up in a little bit of incidents here and there as they head down towards turn number 11, a little bit deep there from Vidal, and loses a tad of time through the hairpin, and will go again through into turn 12 and back up to turn 1, and yet again we'll be on the hunt for that move into 22nd place and then maybe close in to 21st. But a great race so far by Janis Scholten, of course, in his category, good nearly 10 seconds ahead of Ben Gregory, who's second, so without any mistakes here he's probably sound for the win. And then of course third is Jesse Payne Wilkins, down about half a second back actually from Ben Gregory, so the battle for second still continues on in the AM class. And then I did notice that Denis Grabowski has been into the pit lane, and that will be, I believe, for his black flag.
It is, so he's got to get that penalty served and sorted before he goes out for it again. Under 8 minutes, they will be soon hitting at this point. And again, it looks close coming out of turn 6, but nothing more than close for Phil Samways. Nicely covered on the brakes by Scholten here, just trying to manage his position, manage his pace. With the 10 seconds he's got, he can be very pleased with the work he's doing, as will Alex Rogers in the double 7 in P7, holding that 1.2 second gap over Aidan Carter. He won't take maximum points here in race 12, will Aidan Carter, but critically for him in 8th place, he gains on all his rivals.
Certainly, and this is a possible move now from Vidal as Samways went deep into the grass in towards turn 10. And Vidal still can't quite get ahead there of Phil Samways as we go on board here with the Mustang through the final corner, back up towards turn 1, and you can see Samways taking a few more defensive lines through a lot of these corners. He knows that Vidal is looking for that move, so they make their way back up towards turn 2, a tad deep there from Vidal again, but of course that's going to happen. You're going to go deep in corners when you're pushing a little bit hard because you've got that overall bigger risk. Looking further ahead as well, Samways caught up there to the back of Scholtin, but couldn't quite find the move. And then further back as well, we did see Jaco Vanderlith go ahead of Jack Seaver. So Vanderlith now up into the top 13. If all goes his way, he could be on pole for the next race if he stays there. But of course, his battle still continues on here with Samways and Scholtin for P21 in this one. And yeah, you'd imagine now with the M class, you know, 5 races to go, Scholtin's 10 points back from Engelstad. This is probably might end up being the round where he gains that advantage to hold the champion, to go back into the championship lead and potentially hold it.
Fraser Smith then directly on the back here of Nikolai Perlisson, who is really underneath a lot of pressure here. Fraser gets by, there's more points left on the table, and so Perlisson's actually doing a really good job holding that defence in the AMG Mercedes. I'll tell you what I do want to focus on just before the end of this race is 4th and 5th here, Jack Sedgwick and Anders Mira, if we can, because Anders is doing what Anders has been doing all season long out there at the moment, Nathan, scoring consistent points but not finding a win, as Engelstad, your AM Championship leader, is black flagged.
Oh, what a shame for Tristan Engelstad. I said this is a perfect round for Janos Scholtin to go into the lead of the standings and maybe hold it well. That's perfect for him, as now of course Engelstad has that black flag, so he'll drop all the way down to the rear of the field, I'd imagine, ending off this race with 5 minutes to go. He's got no chance of making his way back up after he serves that black flag, but of course he didn't look on pace, and of course has got involved in a little bit too much, as well as Fraser Smith has got that move done as well ahead of Nikolai Pedersen, who goes back ahead of him. So those two got quite dicey. Somehow Pedersen keeps ahead, but of course Smith has to be careful because William Guthrie is right on his rear as well as they head their way through. And this has been a great little battle there for 11th, 12th and 13th, but like you said, of course, Jake, the battle for 4th and 5th still going on quite nicely. 7/10 between Sedgwick and Mira.
Yeah. And it's still going on as well between Adam Watson and Leander Gabrielsson. They had a big amount of argy-bargy and they both ran each other deep through the corner there at Gilligan's Island, turn 11 here at Sonoma, and now we'll probably be staring at each other here with about 5 minutes to go. How many bells are we going to be knocking out of each other, and will we be worrying about incident points late on into this one here in race 1 of 2 tonight, round 12 here of this one at Sonoma? So this could be another point of concern between them, as there is Adam Watson cutting the corner slightly, getting the black flag.
And another driver, and we've only been racing for 26 minutes and drivers already getting black flags. We've had 3 now in this time. So, and also Turnerson as well, another driver with a black flag. That's going to make that 60-minute race a little bit more interesting, because we've seen so many drivers making too many mistakes early on here. Well, 60 minutes, you can't be affording to make those mistakes. So lots to keep an eye on heading through into that 1-hour race to end off Sonoma. But it's proven here, Jake, to be a really tricky track for the drivers. Nobody can seem to make any easy moves apart from forcing them. And a lot of drivers now are starting to get black flags. And I wouldn't be surprised if we get 1 or 2 more by the time we hit that checkered flag. But 8 at the front, I'd imagine those 3 aren't worrying about black flags, because they seem very comfortable, very consistent as a move happening further ahead.
Yep, so that is 3 places, and that is Perlisson now suddenly understanding that it's Fraser Smith who wants himself in and wants to jump to 11th here, trying to work it up the hills. Going to have to go the long way around at turn 2. If he wants it and he gets in the side there, Perlisson said there's not enough room to make that happen, but he gets the drive off the exit, big block then that goes through, missed apex, now brings William Guthrie to the fray, who can't find his pass as he thinks about turn 4 for a pass down the hills, not going to get there. It's all starting to kick off, and we know that you can get a little bit under the heat at Sonoma on a California track, but some drivers are seeing red.
Indeed, and Pedersen there very heavily defending that one. Of course, we saw a couple of times as well a flash of the headlights from Fraser Smith. Not happy with the defence, but I think Pedersen's doing a great job of keeping himself in P11. And of course, after what happened on the first lap, going wide and nearly hitting the barriers, his race was always over then in terms of scoring the big points. It's just about trying to hold on to what you've got and not allow anybody else to go through on you and take that advantage in the points. 2 minutes to go now in this one, so not long left until we see that checkered flag. So not long left now for Nikolai Pedersen to keep ahead of Fraser Smith and keep defending, because he's got a lot of work to do as he goes very wide out of turn 10.
And that forces the crossover then with a couple laps to go. Pedersen's got it covered, but look at the drive off the exit by Fraser Smith. If he can hold it around the outside of 12, he's got the run for turn number 1 and turn 2. So again, hold it around the outside of 1. You'll have the inside here at turn 2. Climbs the hill with advantage. Can he get it slowed up? Yes, but he's pinched. And Pedersen, absolutely magic.
Oh, that was some great defensive work there from Pedersen to keep ahead. And Harrison Crowther, after all the work he's done, 17 positions made, he now gets a black flag with a minute to go, and all of that work has just been undone by going off track too many times. And Gabrielson as well with a black flag. That's 7 drivers now in 28 minutes to get that black flag for incident points. We're going to be in for a very rough 60 minutes of racing later on, and somehow, Jake, I don't know how these two have avoided it so far.
Well, they've avoided it by not making contact with each other. They've been eyeing each other up, but not really pushing beyond the limits, and that's critical. They've now added to the back Adam Watson, who's still got a penalty to serve here, and we're about to start the last lap with Lucas Prada 1.5 seconds down the road from Bume and from Aiden Young, who's kept himself close, but not close enough to make a move at this stage. He's not had a win all season, has Lucas Prada, the man from Czechia in Europe, and he knows that he is one of the best drivers at Adidas Racing by WSR. He wants to prove it time and again that he is going to be a championship contender, and when people are falling by the wayside, he wants to stand up on ceremony as Watson, Crowther and Gabrielson all make their pit stops then in the dying embers of round 12 of the championship. This has been a hard-fought race where drivers have had to measure every single bit of effort that they've had to put out. It's been 21 hard laps of hard graft to go and get with. Young now looking to try and set this up on the second half of the lap as he gets a great run out of 7, trying to work the Corvette magic as he goes through 8 into 8A. Bume, though, is just able to extend maybe slightly wide there through 8A to 9 and 10, and Gilligan's Island awaiting at turn 11. Not lost in the middle of nowhere, not lost in terms of his season. Young goes for it late, gets in the side of Bume, lifts off of it and says, "You've got the place, sunshine." Lucas Prada's first of the season, and isn't that well timed indeed? James Bume is second, and Aiden Young rounds the podium and will probably be apologetic over the line as Alex Rogers on debut takes the Pro-Am win.
What a race there from a lot of our drivers up at the front. Of course, Bume had to hold on there to Young, as here is Benjamin Gregory in the AM class. Of course, it is Jonas Scholten who will win that class there. He's 17th in this one, but Benjamin Gregory, a nice drive indeed from him, working his way back up the field. And he's got a couple of cars behind him as well, but great drive from Rogers and also from Aidan Carter. That, of course, if Rogers wasn't here for his first race, Aidan Carter would have easily won that Pro-Am race. So it just shows how good that Alex Rogers is here.
Yeah, Rogers is really set up for it. Jesse Payne Wilkins then was the one who was looking here, there and everywhere to try and find that pass, but Benjamin Gregory does just enough to hold ahead of Seaman Andre Livingston, Ben Cullen there and Ben Bennyworth crossing the line. So the last drivers will now make their progress over after what has been a tough opening half an hour that has set itself into play, but Lucas Prada finally can say that he's a race winner this year in terms of your World GT Championship. His win in 30 minutes and 44 seconds is going to be won by 2.7 over the line in the end over James Bume in the number 1, the reigning champion, the championship leader, and we'll get this full reverse grid in, or maybe a number less than full. It will not be full, it will be 20 on the reverse, which means Tommy Vidal is going to be on pole for that. So it's Prada from Bume. Aiden Young finds himself in third with Jack Sedgwick fourth and Anders Mira there in fifth position. Michael Evdoka, a very consummate sixth place there and quiet as Alex Rogers would take the Pro-Am crown there in race 12 with Aidan Carter just behind him. Axel Slijevcevic was 1 incident point away from going over the limit. He's 9th. Arthur Thurtle for Altitude Frame Esports Pure Sims rounding out your top 10. Then it's Nikolai Pedersen and Fraser Smith with William Guthrie and Jan Dufner in 13th and 14th. Josh Boot then finishes ahead of Ben Altria. Janis Scholten will be the only AM inside the top 20, so we'll go from 4th with a huge margin on his rivals as Phil Samways, Adam Watson and Tommy Vidal will cross the line and get what they need. Watson, of course, had to serve that penalty, which means on the outside looking in, 2 more penalty takers, Harrison Crowther and Leander Gabrielson, who would have wished they didn't have that, as Benjamin Gregory will be 23rd and Jesse Payne-Wilkins in 24th, leading the train of Seaman Andre Livingston, Ben Cullen, Ben Bennyworth, all of them within a minute. Jocko Vonderlik getting the pass done on his teammate Jacques Zever, 28th and 29th for the South Africans, as Taylor Lane will finish off in 30th, 32 on the leading lap, leaving David Baker and Ivan Turnerson then to the rear, as Dennis Grabowski would be lapped along with Tristan Engelstad and Michael Gray, and your retirees being Andy Scheel and a non-starter there in Colin Sansom. So a lot to go and deal with out there, including Ivan Turnerson late on as he went straight on. So a lot to try and understand in a race that was very fraught with drivers who are concerned about where they wanted to be.
Definitely, and a lot of drivers making a mistake here into turn 10. Of course, that's a spin there from Turnerson, who just about flirts with the barriers as he rejoins back onto track. But a lot of drivers going wide, some of them, of course, then getting caught up in a spin. So heading into that 1-hour race, turn 10 is going to be a key place to watch. And then also turn 11, the hairpin at Gulligan's Island, a very difficult place to overtake. But drivers have gone for moves there. A few of them didn't quite work out, and some of them just about got away with it. So, yeah, I think heading into this next one, a lot of it's keeping an eye on that racecraft, and then, of course, just trying to keep out of trouble. You start bringing up those 4x incident points every now and then for contact, you're going to get yourself a black flag. So it's all about keeping calm and collected heading into this one.
Yeah, tempers are certainly sparking at the moment, and who is going to find the flashpoint and get their bolt of electricity up through the order? They know they've got 20 positions to gain for Lucas Prada if he wants to go back-to-back here at Sonoma, and the challenge, I think, is going to be very much set and sorted for those who want to make the all-important run. We're going to step aside for just one moment here on RaceSpotTV. We'll be back with the next round immediately after this at round 13 here from Sonoma Raceway.
Them as well. What a move from the 48. Oh, look at this. And onto the straight they come.
Brilliant move there from the number 40 to make it through. That left-hander sliding up the inside, going up now over Hawthorne Hill, down Pilgrim's Drop, and it's brilliant stuff here at Brands Hatch.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the World GT Championship here on RaceSpotTV. And so it's going to be a strong battle that is now going to be needed for the hour here at Sonoma. They understand that here at what used to be Infineon Raceway, what also used to be called as Sears Point, which was the more local name for this circuit before the town of Sonoma took the ownership of the track, is that this is going to be a hard-fought hour that they're going to deal with, and critically, if you set yourself into rhythm around here, you've got a half a chance. But that pit lane around the outside of turn 11 Gilligan's Island, Nathan, is one track and very tough.
Certainly is, and of course it's all in that first race. A lot of incident points, a lot of incidents as well between drivers, and of course drivers are very aggressive and trying to go ahead, and that's because they know how difficult it is to overtake. The flow of the track's nice, you can stick with somebody very easily, but it's so difficult to actually make those overtakes. This is going to be a very interesting 60-minute race where you think at the start they've got to be way more conservative. They can't risk getting, you know, a few 4Xs here and there and then leave yourself with only a couple of incident points with like half an hour to go. So first few laps I think have got to be a lot more calm than they originally were.
And the fact that the field is going to be truncated from slower to quicker is not going to make life easy. Tommy Vidal on the pole with Adam Watson alongside for company. Phil Samways and Janis Schulte, they're third and fourth. Ben Altria will see Josh Boot for Empire Motorsports then with him on the third row as Jan Duffner goes from seventh, and William Guthrie then in eighth place. The second of the Mr. Hedge altitude framing esports cars, Fraser Smith, they're in ninth with Nikolai Perlison going from 10th as Arthur Thurtle and Axel Slijepcevic then are both in on row 6. Aidan Carter, the leader in the Pro-Am standings, will have Alex Rogers next to him, looking to go and get the double on debut as Michael Evdoka and Anders Mira are there on row 8. Jack Sedgwick will see Aidan Young alongside in the Soul Corvette, and the top 20 rounded out by the reigning champ and championship leader James Boumet and Lucas Prada in the number 20. Harrison Crowther with more work to do, as well as Leander Gabrielson with Benjamin Gregory and Jesse Payne-Wilkins. Then on row 12, Simon Andre Livingston and Ben Cullen are 25th and 26th as Ben Bennyworth starts 27th, and the epic sim racing boys of Jocko Vonderlit and Sharks Eva are 28th and 29th. David Baker will have it all to do from 30th, as will Ivan Turnerson and Dennis Grabowski 31st and 32nd. Tristan Engelstad, the AM Championship leader, also with a long row today with Michael Gray and Colin Sansom 34th and 35th. No Andy Shield for this second race of tonight, and they are starting to count down the season, and they are starting to realise that this World GT Championship now is really getting itself busy and sorted. They will know that it is Mosport in 7 days' time that they will deal with for rounds 14 and 15, and that is going to be a high-speed affair. So they are going to be bottled up, looking to get passes done, and critically, looking for as many freebies as they can around here.
They certainly will be. And of course, I was looking as well just at the bottom half of the, bottom half, the 20th and 10. And of course, you've got the lots of Harrison Crowther, who's right on the back of Prada and Bomi. And with the pace that we saw from Harrison Crowther earlier on, maybe it's not too bad he's starting there, because if all goes well, he can probably follow those two through. Follow their way forward through the field, because once you start to get 2 or 3 drivers make a move on one, they kind of tend to just part ways, and all the others who are quick follow through on them as well. So hopefully for Crowther and some of those behind who got some pace, they have an opportunity to work with Prada and Bomi and Young to work forward as one car there pulling onto the grass.
Yeah, there's a big checkup here, and that checkup is behind Aidan Carter, who got himself well out of position. He was warming up the tyres, and just looking at it as he went through, he just looped it and spun it straight into Axel Slijepcevic. So that has immediately thrown 4 incident points onto the pair of them off at the start of this race. And when we talk about the margins being fine, well, they're even finer for those two. A big mistake early on there for Aidan Carter.
Indeed, and that's not the start. That's not the start you want when you haven't even started the 60 minutes. And of course, incident points as well for going off track and stuff like that here will get counted as well in this session. So that's already putting you on the back foot if you've got a couple due to that. But of course, heading into this one, of course, Tommy Vidal the pace we saw earlier was really, really strong. So he's got a big opportunity to maybe pull away and still get a decent finish. Do I think he'll win? Probably not, because some of those behind are going to be flying through and have got some immense pace, some of those pro drivers. But I think that Vidal, if he keeps out of trouble, can easily hold on to a top 5 here.
Watson's going to be an interesting driver to keep focus on, as he had a very aggressive round 12 up against Leander Gobraelson. Big early launch there from Tommy Vidal. Oh, he's caught everybody napping off the exit. Green flag in the air through turn 12, and that now sets Phil Samways up to look and be aggressive. Schultain already dropping 2 places off the get-go, and there's trouble immediately. Bang into the side of Ben Altria. It's going to go Jan Dufner, who strands himself on the exit of turn 2.
Oh, what a chaotic start that is, and it's still kicking off behind. A couple of cars going 3 wide as they make their way through the opening couple of corners. Lots of moves being made, and already the likes of Young and Bomi and Prada making a couple of moves, as that's going to be, I think, Rogers around. Sleepjovic as well caught up in something. James Bomi as well.
Ed Docker there also turned about with it, so it's dramatic to say the very least. Off of the start, drivers having to take avoiding action, and James Boumet ultimately was on the outside of that incident and had to skirt across the grass there like it was the early 2000s in the Tour de France, but working into the hairpin for the first time and trying to find a way through. Anders Mira will be loving this, the fact that he's gaining some amazing places. Side by side, he finds himself now through the S's, but can't get it done on Jungle Jack Sedgwick. Here to get this sorted, cutting back over to stop Aidan Young having a sniff into turn 10.
Ready Aidan Young up into P13, and that's a great start. 1 lap and 5 positions made as a couple of cars are heading into the pit lane and 2 wide into the hairpin as Lucas Prada trying to go ahead of Leander Gabrielson, and Sleepjovic is into the pit lane, so he's obviously got some damage somewhere in that Porsche. So that's going to really put a halt to the start of this one as we have 58 minutes to go. A long race ahead. And of course, Adam Watson getting the lead at the start. A great chance for him there to take the lead. And also Janis Schulten trying to keep ahead of William Guthrie, who we know has a lot of pace and has got that move done, and now up into P7.
Watson's pass at turn 4 was lovely down the inside as William Guthrie is around. And he is around on the exit of turn 3A. And now he's got a very awkward rejoin now to get back into position. They're 3 wide around him as he skirts by the Marshall post and down the hill. So tough for him. He'll go right to the back of the pack. But it is a very difficult start to this race, and drivers are all over the shop trying to get those moves sorted. Carter, for example, and Thurtle side by side, and also there Young under pressure as he gets through on Anders Miro with Leander Gabrielson just behind.
Indeed, and drivers know they have to get moves done early, especially those that are in the pro class and are stuck down in like 15th and below. They've got to get moves quickly. Of course, Jack Sedgwick up into the top 10 now and trying to get ahead of Aidan Carter and some of those ahead. He's got a really good run now, has Jack Sedgwick, to maybe make a move in towards turn 11, down on the braking zone, but Aidan Carter goes to the outside of Arthur Thurtle, breaks really deep and allows Sedgwick to go through, and a couple of cars trying to feed through as well, and that's going to get dicey as they head through the final corner, and Aidan Carter there losing one and could even lose a couple of more here.
It could have been more, he could have been turned around. It was Aidan Young who ended up on the wrong side of it. Gabrielson now going to the outside, and almost a tag of Anish Mira going by through. This allows Lucas Prada to just quietly slip by Gabrielson and pick up a position here. So they're all turning around. Pearlison, for example, up into P6. He's had a really good start to this one as they work down through into turn 4. Contact for Harrison Crowther. That's going to leave him exposed to Ben Altria, who sneaks his way back through.
A nice move there from Altria to go ahead of Crowther, who's of course made some good moves and then lost them all again. Down to P16 here in this one, and it's got the pace, just can't quite keep onto those positions. Quite mistake prone as Crowther been at the start of this one in the first opening 4 minutes as he goes back up the inside. A nice move in towards turn number 8, and Michael Gray and Jacques Seaver as well having a battle for P27 in the field a little bit further down, and then also Ben Altria as well getting involved in something as this is, I believe, the battle further down. It's Ben Cullen trying to keep ahead of Grabowski, who's got a lot of pace in his car and of course got caught up in a black flag early on in the race and couldn't recover from there. He's now got a big opportunity to move forward.
He does here in this next race. He knows how. Oh, and behind, there goes Seaman. Andre Livingston. Oh, massive accident going across the circuit. It's caught a whole heat. The track is blocked as they work themselves through. My, oh my, what a junk up. Livingston, Michael Gray caught up in it. That's a huge accident. Jacques Eva, Michael Evdoka in trouble. Alex Rogers then having to come to pits.
5 cars involved in all of that, and all 5 cars got severe damage on their cars. What a shame. But of course it can happen into turn 10, and we said that earlier on. Turn 10 is a killer. And here's what's happened on the first lap with Jan Duffner, who went way too late on the brakes. Got, I think, a little bit caught off guard by the car ahead, also making a mistake. Hit the grass, slid across, and there was no way he was going to make it on the brakes in time. And this was Alex Rogers getting caught up in something. James Bowyer there, having to go off track completely, and then a spin further ahead as well. A very chaotic start here in Sonoma, but that was definitely more than expected of William Guthrie going for a spin after some contact as well. And of course that sent him, and somehow didn't get caught up by anybody else. He avoided any sort of contact there, and then that was a spin for Livingston that caused everybody up. Ooh. And he flipped in the air.
Yeah, Ben Bennyworth had nowhere to go, and then Bennyworth's instant caught a lot more in trouble, and Livingston all the way to the pit with that trouble. Here's Ben Bennyworth. Look at it then from Quartermass Motorsport. You can see on board, sees the smoke. He just chose wrong and ultimately comes back across, and everyone who's on the racing line, Rogers and Evdoka, and you can see there the likes of one of the Epic cars there in trouble too. So that was a big old scare off of the start of this race as they all look to try and get some progress. Here's the look from Michael Evdoka. Now, did he have any way of avoiding this? Saw smoke on the left and just decided, oh, straight, it's meat into the grinder. There's no way of avoiding it.
No, no matter what way you go, you're going to get caught up in something. Or if not, catch someone else's. Yeah, move for Fraser Smith up into P3 ahead of Phil Samways.
Yeah, he's doing really well, is Fraser Smith, actually. He started 9th. And he's already up to 3rd. Josh Boot in the Porsche gives it a bit of boot, gets into the side of Samways, who's not giving this up. Perlison might get the pair of them here if he knows where to pick it, but he lifts off of it, does the Dane. And so, for the moment, Josh Boot, leaves the door open. You can't do that. He'll walk in, he'll have a bit of your tea and biscuit out there if you do that. Perlison steals one.
And Josh Boot there from attack to attacked in that as well. Dear me, that's a car off track. And the somehow makes it through, does Mira. Somehow kept it without going off the track and having a spin. But a lot of the time you take that line, you hit the curb at that angle, and your car goes completely around. He's somehow kept it there, and also might look on the attack.
He's the last driver you'd expect to make that move, as sweeping around the outside goes Aidan Young, and he looks like he's about to sneak one through, and does, on Anders Mira, with Prada, Krode, the Gabrielson and Altria all there. They're all bottlenecked up behind Aidan Carter and Arthur Thurtle. I believe it was Janis Schulte who had the contact with William Guthrie, and that's going to put Janis in a tough position if he gets penalised, because he can ill afford to drop points just as he's regained the championship lead. Look down the inside made then as Crowther defends against Lucas Prada, but Prada having to be really defensive out there in this group. Perlison now up to 4th.
Indeed, a great move there by the Mercedes to go ahead of Phil Samways. So himself and Josh Boot now are just slowly dropping back from those in the top 5, and it won't be long before Jack Sedgwick and Thurtle and those behind all catch up, because here is Phil Samways and Josh Boot behind the back of Nikolai Pedersen now as they make their way through in towards turn 8. And of course, these two still have a big opportunity to fight for the podium for the Prime class. Of course, Tommy Vidal's got a nice lead ahead of Phil Samways by a good 4 seconds. So no mistakes from him, and he can keep on pulling that gap. And of course, once we saw he was on pole, we knew that at least for the first half of the race, he's going to be there. And I'd imagine he'll probably hold on to a podium on top 3 until probably around that half an hour mark, because all the battling with Thurtle and Carter keeping all the others behind, they're stopping them from making moves, and it's just eliminating them from getting ahead, as actually Aidan Carter's gone for a send on Arthur Thurtle.
He's very tough, is Arthur Thurtle, to get by. Just remember Jerez at the start of the season, the immortal race that Arthur had in order to hold back Jack Sedgwick. So he knows how to defend, and if he's the trickiest customer here to try and get by, everyone knows they're in it for the long haul. You do have to make a pit stop in this race. I wonder how many in this group will decide to pit early.
Indeed, some of them might have to. They might as well, as that was onto the grass again for Aiden Young.
Oh, Mira!
They make it through. Mira's gone round.
He gets tagged there by Harrison Crowther by the looks of things and has to wait. And this is something he can ill afford for his championship effort. Outside line, searching for the big run. Then is Aiden Carter. He's going to be close on the exit there with Aiden. And so, battle of the Aidens. It's Aiden with a Y who's going to be looking to the outside. Can he sweep around Arthur Thurtle? Goes in uber deep into the right. Can't quite get the run sorted, but does dispatch of Aiden Carter. And sneaking through all of it was Lucas Prada. Perfect timing.
Of course, and Thurtle and Carter there, bottlenecking the whole field, and a lot of them there getting into contact on that one as Jack Sedgwick trying to go ahead of Josh Boots up for P6, as well as they're heading their way down towards the hairpin. And Young now on the attack, looking to go ahead of Arthur Thurtle, has a nice line into turn 11, and we've seen a few times through here, haven't we, Jake? Aiden Young has a really good line, but also gets a really good exit every time. So this is probably one of his best overtaking spots into turn 11, and all the time, most of the time at least, gets that move done.
He says he likes this circuit, does Aiden Young, mainly because he's won at it quite a fair bit in his time. So the points are certainly going to be helpful for him. As Anders Mira, you can see Harrison Crowther, they all bottle up behind Thurtle and Carter, and then Crowther thinks, you know what, I'll pick one up. Anders Mira's just covered the line normally, and so you're not far enough along, Harrison. It's a desperate dive, and a one where Anders Mira realises that's going to really hurt, because James Boumet is now back ahead of him at the moment, and it has set up a treat as far as this race is now going. It's 2 seconds the gap at the front as we focus on the train now. I will argue second, third, fourth, fifth out there and back, because right now you've got the likes of Vidal, Smith and Pearlison. Samway's just a little off of that now with Cedric, and Josh Boot there in the Empire Motorsport machine. Ivan Turnison then just behind him, who is a lap down.
Of course, and then we did see as well Grabowski making a move ahead of Jesse Payne Wilkins. So Grabowski now up into P16, and here is Lucas Prada in the Adidas Racing by WSR car, heading down on the brakes in towards Gilligan's Island. A couple of cars having a battle further ahead. Carter and that'll be Thurtle as they make their way back through in towards turn 12, and then up towards turn 1. And Prada now looking for the move. Has to be careful though here, just in case he gets caught up in something. He's got a nice run on Carter, who now is to his right hand side. Head up the hill, and Thurtle loses it on the rear. Thurtle loses, the car goes off into the barriers, and what a shame for Arthur Thurtle, who's done so much work of keeping the field behind him.
Both him and Turnison off the road, same place, same time, almost as if someone had dropped oil down there. Turnison lost it of his own accord, and by the time he was getting around, Thurtle basically mounts on top of him, so he just snaps in the Porsche. There does Arthur Thurtle. Really difficult to try and bring that back, almost as if he turned a little bit too much for the trail brake.
The hit and a half there for Thurtle, and somehow gets the car going. Of course, I'd imagine we'll have to go back into the pits, and certainly has, as Arthur Thurtle, but that was a big hit into the barriers, and we've seen that a couple of times now with drivers. They hit the curb at the wrong point, or they lose the rear, and they go flying off into the barriers. As Anders Mira does make the move ahead of Ben Cullen, so back up into the top 20 now for Mira. He got caught up in contact with Crowther earlier on, and still a great battle going on here as Lucas Prada trying to get back into the top 10, trying to go ahead of
Sedgwick,
Aiden Carter, and Jack Sedgwick as well making another move.
He's up into fifth, and Jack Sedgwick, a driver who has been one very talented GT spec runner for well over a decade here, somehow in this championship, Nathan, doesn't have a win. And here is someone in the 11 who desperately needs it, as we focus right now a little bit further back down the field, as Jesse Payne Wilkins then sees David Baker fly on by.
Of course, and a nice move there from David Baker, who, compared to Kota, has had a really good week, really good night so far. Of course, first race didn't go too bad for him, and now started to make some moves here in this second one. So yeah, David Baker doing a great job on tracking that Mustang. As of course behind him is Jesse Payne Wilkins, who's just slowly dropping down the field, has made quite a few moves in the opening part of the race, as Fraser Smith goes into P2.
Yeah, Tommy Vidal didn't have anything for it at turn 7. It's a nice pass down the inside by Fraser, and now Aiden Young trying to get it done on Janis Schultein here, the AM driver who has now just moved back into the lead. The championship lead, Prada through on Aiden Carter, puts him up into the top 10. So passes being done all at turn 7, all here on lap 10, and Aiden Young up double digits. He's plus 10.
Indeed, of course, Aiden Young still looking to go forward. Hasn't got that far to go until he reaches to Josh Boot and Phil Samways, and you'd imagine those are quite given for Aiden Young in this one. So P6 looks minimum at the moment for him, but then of course it'll be a task to maybe catch up to Sedgwick and Pedersen, as this is Aiden Carter, who's dropped down a couple of spots since the start, but he's still up in the top 11, and I think would still be quite happy with the top 15 here. And of course, will be P4 in class, depending if Ben Altria goes ahead, it could be P5, but still a decent result here for Aiden.
Well, he'll be looking at his points haul, thinking, who am I going to have to worry about out there in the championship? William Guthrie's a long way down. Michael Gray is even further than that as he gets pushed out by Leander Gabriel, so nothing he can do. In fact, Michael Gray is out of the race. Tommy Vidal then would be the threat in this one, and well, he's down the road. And Harrison Crowther now out of the race with the black and orange mechanical flag.
Shame for Crowther. Of course, all the work done in race 1 got undone, of course, with the black flag at the end of the first race.
He's done exactly what his teammate Arthur Thurtle did up through that section. He's just grabbed grass on entry here as he's on the left-hand side. And look at it, he's trying to hold on, but oh, there's nothing you can do there except hold on to the tyres.
Yeah, it's such a difficult corner. Turn 2 is the killer. Once you get it wrong, you're going that fast up the hill. The car bottoms out, then of course it goes off the ground slightly as well for some drivers, and for some cars at the speed they're taking at the angle, there's nothing you can do.
Boomie in. That's an early stop, and I think that's a really clever decision here by James Boomie. He knows that today he's got to give himself clean air. This is a circuit very tough to pass on. If he gives himself clean air early, he'll be able to go and work this one all the way through. Worth noting as well, he's got damage on the front left, so he'll be looking at getting that repaired here in this stop to get back out and going again. They have one fast repair available, so he'll be using that right now.
Indeed he will be. So drivers going in early, trying something a bit different, but James Boomie, because he's got a lot of pace and because he's probably one of the fastest drivers in the field, it doesn't hurt for him to try something new when he's already so far down to where he normally is.
Oh, he didn't use his repair. Didn't use his repair. That's very important to know. So he's just going to mitigate with the damage as we watch Boot, Young and Samways. It's Young on the outside. He can't get it done. Phil Samways clogging it up like an artery at the moment. He is not going to lose out as Scholtain does behind to Lucas Prada.
Indeed, and it's 42 minutes to go, and the action has been intense, and with the way it's going, I'm not surprised if we will...
Straight down the inside to third now, he gets the pass done. Tommy Vidal moves back another.
Nice move there for Pedersen, needing to make the move for the podium, and then Aiden Young now going ahead of Phil Samways. A nice move from him, and not far up the road is Josh Boot, just about 5/10 away, so you'd imagine 2 or 3 laps time and Aiden Young will be up into the top 6, and then it's about him trying to catch up to Jack Sedgwick. Has about a 4-second gap at the moment, but if Tommy Vidal can keep Jack Sedgwick behind, there's a big chance that Young can catch that way. Jan Duffner's into the pit lane, Aiden Carter is as well, and I think Michael O'Dock has gone back in, so whether that's for damage or whether that's for a pit stop for fuel, that we'll have to wait and see.
So Duffner making his stop, then Aiden Carter also into pit. So that's another name to keep an eye out on there as the Pro-Am slowly departs then from the lane. Jesse Payne-Wilkins, Anders Mira and Benjamin Gregory out there at this point battling. And Anders Mira, this has been the story of his season. If you're consistent, you've got to be consistent at all rounds of the championship. If you have a bad round, this is slowly starting to look for Anders Mira. He had to use a drop round at St. Petersburg. It looks like he's having to use another one here at Sonoma. As he gets to the outside of the Full Tilt Motorsport AMG Mercedes, and that BMW, sole BMW in the field, the trusty machine of Anders Mira's RAA Sim Sport BMW gets through.
Certainly does so. A nice move indeed there. As we continue our way on, of course, looking down at pit stop, Seb Dock is still in the pit lane, according to the timing, so I'm not sure what's happened to him, as Lucas Prada's in as well. Prada is into the pit, so a lot of drivers now, Jake, are heading in. You'd imagine give it 10 minutes and most of the top 10 will be in, I'd think. I think lots of Aiden Young might stay out a little bit longer just to get a couple of initial moves done and then head into the pit lane.
Well, you try and get at least half an hour done and you're going to be on the right place. You can go as long as 40 minutes by the looks of it out there as we watch Aiden Young really trying to chuck his Corvette around here. The sole Corvette out there up against the Empire Porsche of Josh Boot as he looks around and says, can I get this pass down the inside? You bet we can. Great pass to go and get it done. The Empire car sees that crumble a little bit more, but Josh Boot won't mind. He's currently second in class.
That was an easy move there for Aiden Young, and a great move as well. Precision from himself, and like you said earlier, he said he's quick around here. He's certainly proving it at the moment on track in the Corvette. He's up into the top 6 and like 4 seconds back from Jack Sedgwick. You'd imagine that gap will come down as well as the race goes on. 39 minutes remaining now, so just over a third of the way through, and I think a great job as well from Janis Scholten, still up in the top 10 here in the AM class, doing a great job ahead of the next car being Jesse Payne-Wilkins in P15, then Ben Gregory behind. So Scholten here still has a big advantage over the next car in his class. You'd imagine now taking the lead ahead of Tristan Engelstad, who's right down the rear of the field. This would be a really big opportunity now for Janis Scholten to go even higher and give himself, you know, a big advantage, maybe 40 or 50 points if it goes his way.
Well, give credit to Tristan Engelstad here. He's up from 33rd to 17th at the moment, so he's really made some good progress. He's only 7 spots and about 15 seconds down, so if Scholten gets into something, that's going to be a way for Engelstad to try and get this back. And there are, of course, more meetings over the course of this season where those points can all go and be scored. You can't drop the final rounds, for example, is one of the rules. So it could all be down, and normally is in championships like these, down to the very last embers of a season.
Certainly can be, and I'd imagine it'll go this way as well for many of the 3 classes, because it's been a really close season. And like even now, looking at the gap in the Pro class, it's 64 points before we headed into round 1. The gap's probably a little bit higher now, but if it finishes the way it is and Pedersen's up in the top 3 and Bohm is just on the the bottom half of the top 10, that gap's going to fly down again, and it will go to the next round where Bohm has got to try and get the advantage once more.
Oh yeah, Tommy is playing a risk-averse game here. Takes a big wide line at turn 11, Gilligan's Island, and says, well, Jack Sedgwick, you're quicker than me, you're in the Pro class, I'll let you go and chase. And Jack Sedgwick, who started 17th on the grid, is now 4th, and the big threat to Pedersen, Smith and Watson.
Certainly is, and of course Vidal there, yeah, playing his cards right. He knows he's still got a decent gap ahead of Aiden Young, so it's not like next lap there's a Corvette behind him. He's still got a few laps in the bank there before Young catches up, and maybe they'll both have been in the pit lane by the time Young would catch up to where Tommy Vidal is, and then of course Josh Boot and Phil Samways, who don't quite seem on the same wavelength as what Vidal does. So you'd imagine here he can just play a damage limitation race and not bother getting into contact and not really bother fighting too much with cars that are going to get through. I'd imagine if Aiden Young does catch up, Vidal's not going to fight that either. There's no point, because at some point Young will go through on Tommy Vidal. So he's playing it well, and of course showing his experience here in the World GT Championship. And of course Vidal's been around in many different series for a long time. He knows where to put the car, and he knows who to fight and who not to fight.
It's one of those, who do you battle and who don't you? And the longer that you run in a series, the more you understand the drivers you can race against and the drivers you can't, and how to treat certain drivers out there on circuit as Vidal. You see that bump as well as they come out of turn 10, as they drop just before the braking zone. This is Denis Grabowski on an absolute charge at this stage. Ben Altria is next in terms of how he wants to try and get by, but isn't going to find the pass out there through at turn 11, and the barriers on the inside to stop any cutting going through that section. Altria now is trying his best to stay with the likes of Scholten and even Phil Samways he'd like to get back up to. He's done very well to stay 11 after being off the road on the second corner of the race.
Certainly, as Grabowski can see as well, damage on his car, so he's going to have to work his way through that. I don't think it'll affect him too much, but still not ideal, as he's all over the back here of Ben Altria as they head onto the brakes into turn 4, and you can just see how much later Grabowski's able to brake in that Porsche, up by 20. He's flying here in the field, and of course, just shows that if he didn't get the issues he had on at the start of the first race, he probably would have finished quite high up. But of course, when issues happen in the first race, it just puts you back down for the second, and of course, he just had to do so much work to fight back through the field, and he's doing a great job to maybe get into the top 10 at some point in this one. 35 minutes to go, so nearly halfway through, and a lot of drivers settling nicely here before we get to that pit stop phase. And of course, I expected a lot more to go to the pits since we saw, I think it was Beaumay, the first one to go in, so that's going to be something to keep an eye on. If others are leaving it really late, is that later pit stop working, or will it be the early pit stop that works?
Well, looking at the times here, Fraser Smith did a 27.6, Adam Watson a 28.0. I'm looking at the times here from Prada and Beaumay. They're in the 27.7s and 27.8s out there, so they're not as quick as they could be at this point in time. It's actually quite matched even to what they're doing at the front, so shows the level actually of how hard they are pushing at the front of this field, with Pearlison at 2 seconds down the road. Jack Sedgwick then really trying to fight, and speaking of fights, that's William Guthrie trying to pull himself in. He's the reigning Pro-Am champion, and someone who looks at Tristan Engelstad, who is into today the AM Championship leader, going, I've really got to move, as Jaco van der Ligt now pits.
Indeed, so a couple more going in, and we'll see how that works out for them. So of course, James Beaumay being one of the first to go in, he's net second here because Lucas Prada's ahead by 1.5 seconds. So that's your net leaders here. Grabowski is going to be, no, sorry, it'll be Aidan Carter who's now net third. So Grabowski will drop back down and probably be net fourth here as it goes, unless Alex Rogers can do something about it.
Well, Alex wants to, but at the moment he can't. So Grabowski's got himself then okay with Aidan Carter, but the battle's on for the race lead as the two drivers at altitude fray now start thinking about which order would you want to be. And I'd argue that you get the message in the radio, Adam, Fraser is faster than you. Do you copy?
Indeed, and you'd imagine Fraser will want to get that moved on quickly, and he goes straight through. An easy move. Didn't even fight that one, did he?
No, that was coordinated, a lift off, but the way that they've done that here, Nathan, look at what it now means for Nikolai Pearlison. He's now got draft.
Indeed, so he's got a big opportunity here, and of course, after not the best first race, finishing down at the bottom half of the top 10, a podium here, or at least a top 5, would really help him in recovering after what happened in that opening race. So potentially a big chance for Pearlison to still get some decent points out of Sonoma. But of course he's got to be careful because Jack Sedgwick will catch him up eventually, I think. He's got some great pace, has Sedgwick, so just keep an eye on that. And Alex Rogers is in again because it says on my timing screen he's already pitted once.
Yeah, he pitted to get the meatball repaired. We saw him absolutely smashed up in the incident with Seaman Andre Livingston and Ben Bennyworth. So this would be his scheduled stop as he now sets. Fraser Smith, your leader. He was late into the season out here and is needed to try and really push on. Pearlison there in third, Sedgwick fourth, and trying to hold on to the coattails of those who are around at 3.5 seconds off the race lead. Then it's Vidal and Young, Boot, Samways and Gabrielson, and Janos Schulte who is there. The question will be, though, how quick is that pace of Prada and Beaumay, and is it going to leapfrog them up enough places to go and attack late? That's the big concern of all of these groups right now, is what are they doing behind who have already pitted?
Indeed, it's going to get dicey towards the end, and I imagine these three, once they're in, we'll get a real representation of where Prada and Beaumay are. Of course, Beaumay went in really early in this one, of course, had to pit for longer, but of course has got a longer run on this stint of tyres, so we'll see what he can do with that. Of course, Grabowski on the back as well of Aidan Carter. That's for net third at the moment in this race, because I don't imagine anybody can get to the end here. So those that are pitted are now in the net lead of this one, or the net top positions, as Pedersen on the back of Adam Watson still. Of course, you'd imagine is kind of, if the pace isn't too bad from Watson and Smith, he might just stay behind, because if he catches up and tries to force a move, they're going to lose time battling. So if the pace isn't too bad from the top two, we might just stay with them until the pit stops come around to not lose time.
Well, Fraser Smith is really trying to rag on it at the moment. 8 tenths he pulls the gap out to as they head to turn 11 once more. So he's really trying to extend here at just about the halfway stage of this race. A pass behind for 5th, as there goes Aiden Young straight down the inside of the Norwegian Tommy Vidal. So that a critical pass for Aiden Young, and he's been caught behind the 8 ball by about 5 seconds, struggling to make the moves, where Jack Sedgwick got luckier. So I think here Aiden is hoping that these drivers up in front come together. He's looking for good points out there. I think great points are going to be hard to come by for him.
Certainly, you've just got to hold on to what you can get here. Of course, yes, there's still many rounds to go in the championship. Of course, still another 5 events, but of course, things start to get dicey towards the end, and those that have got the advantage kind of keep it. And it's so hard to break it down, especially when you've got the likes of James Boumé up at the top. He's going to be one of those who isn't going to lift off, is he, towards the end of the championship?
Well, no, but Leander Gabrielsen here is in a scrap right now for 8th place. I note that Lucas Prada has had a free pass on Seaman Andre Livingston for position. He's got to get by Jacques Siva and Ben Beddyworth right now, as he's hitting a bit of traffic, but for position. Gabrielsen now pulling over towards the inside. Can he get the lunge done on Phil Samways? No is the answer on a battle of Lamborghinis out there trying to work the line and say we can get the progress through. Now hitting the S's before hitting turns 8 and 8A here through this fast right-hander, through the dip, up and over the crest and over the other side. It's like 4 corners in a day when you go through there at turn 8A.
you fly through at so much speed, and I still don't get this whole 8A or 3A and 3B. I just prefer numbers. I'd rather have 1, 2, 3, 4 instead of
so would I.
A's and B's.
So would I. I don't know why it's a 3A or an 8A out there. The Americans love to number and letter at the same time and decide we're going to do calculus and algebra out there every time we go about with it. Gabrielsen getting close again, but Phil Samways, despite being a little bit squirrely up into turn 2, covers his marks off very nicely and does what he needs to. Jesse Payne-Wilkins now pits from 2nd in the AM category.
Indeed, so we'll see where Payne-Wilkins comes out in this, as Samways there nearly losing the car as they heading towards the next braking zone, and Samways there doesn't really fight it, does he? He doesn't need to. There's no point, so up another spot goes the end of Gabrielsen, up into P8, and then has to close down on Josh Boot, who is still falling away from Tommy Vidal. So Vidal here is doing a great job to maybe seal off that win for the Pro-Am category, and maybe come home with a P6 potentially here, which would be great for him in this one, of course, after having the spin and the contact in that first race. Great way to recover.
It would be a great way to say, look, I'm going to be someone who's going to go out there. Watson now is at risk of losing that second. The McLaren is a very niche car. He's the only driver out there in a McLaren. Here is Adam Watson. He's got a great karting background, but that McLaren, I don't think, suits this circuit. I think it likes a quicker, more expansive track.
Indeed. As we continue our way on, and a second now between the top 2, and of course Pedersen all over the back of Watson. And I said maybe he'd sit back, but for now he doesn't seem like he wants to do that. He wants to bring the pace down and maybe go for a possible move. 27 minutes to go here. And still many drivers not yet to pit, so some of them went in really early. I didn't think that we'd still have most of the top 10 still out on track without a pit stop as we continue our way on. So the top 17 are yet to pit in this race. Only 10 have pitted. Of course, Rogers pitting twice for damage and then for fuel. So that's going to be something to keep an eye on as well. What can Rogers do, of course, after to do that extra pit stop? Is it going to harm him, or maybe can it reward him sometime in the race as well later on?
Technical circuits often as well find themselves to be low fuel burners as you work on through them, because you're not getting up to those top speeds with long straights. There isn't really a straight around this place. Even when you're on the drag strip, you're immediately off of it again. So this is going to be one where you can maybe save and supple a little bit more. Defensive line being taken then here into the corner. There's lap traffic in front as well for Fraser Smith to deal with, and Jocko Vonderlit, who lifts and lets it go. It's Watson holding his position well, and Alex Rogers getting out of the way a lap down. Jack Sedgwick then jumps on through then and says, I'm only 1.8 off the back. I want to get in and involved on it.
Oh, and this as Gabriel, oh no, never mind, there was a bit of lag for a moment. I don't know if those two came to contact, because Samways is still trying to go back ahead of Leander Gabrielsen. So let's have a look what's happening up in P8
from Gabrielsen.
And that happened earlier in the first race. I thought for a moment maybe Samway's got the move, but no, a bit of blinking, and of course that's not going to be good for Phil Samway, seeing the car appearing and disappearing in front of him.
No, it is absolutely zero help out there, and Leander Gabrielsen will be having a very close eye kept on him at the moment because his ping does not look very nice. Working through the traffic then as they go, Watson and Pulisic, and with 25 minutes to go, Benjamin Gregory down into the pits here, and the mark to Lucas Prada is 45 seconds here. You look at the lane time that Benjamin Gregory's doing, and he did a 12.4 second pit stop, mind you, and if you look at lane delta, 32.1 there as he ticks through, 35, 36. You're looking for 45 seconds as the mark of what he needs to get out, 42.4. So I put right now Prada and Boumet right around where Jack Sedgwick is, as the bump from Nikolai Pulisic then says, look, I'm going to flash my lights and tell you, get the hurry up. We've lost a second or two now to Fraser Smith.
Indeed, and Smith can run off up the road here and give himself a nice advantage for when he pits as a lapped car comes out ahead. That's going to cause some issues. Is that Andre Livingston that has just come out the pit lane? Somebody's in the way, and luckily does move out the way, but that could have again cost him a little bit of time, and things aren't going too well here for Watson and Pedersen, and it is Seaman Andre Livingston who's came out of the pits, and also David Baker goes in as well. So a few more are starting to pull the plug here.
Well, they need to, because they're reaching the limits of what the fuel can offer them at this stage as more come in. Engelstad then comes in for his pit stop out there as Baker's service, 14.3 seconds is what he manages. This one is going to come down to who positions themselves out where and who gets what, but Fraser Smith looks very good. The pace has been great. Here's Ben Cullen up the hill right now. He's just lost the place out to James Boumet for position. Let him go, because he realises, quite wisely does Ben Cullen, I'm not fighting the championship leader for position, even though I am on track. He's a pit stop ahead of me.
Indeed, so it's starting to get very technical now for the drivers, and of course this is where your pit stop strategies come into play, and also being with a team. If you're on your own and you've not got a team around you, you've got to form all this info yourself and know when to pit and, you know, the sort of strategies that you're going to play. But if you've got a big team around you, like we've got a lot of, you know, like WSR for example in this, and Falcon Sim Racing, they can, you know, they've probably got ideas before the race even starts of, right, we're going to do this if we're in this position, or that if we're in that position. So they kind of know what to do already, whereas the others have got to guess. So you'd imagine those racing in teams here have a little bit more ideas and maybe a bit of an advantage over those privateers that are taking part in the championship, and I'm sure we will see that come to fruition later on. Of course, as we continue our way on here, the gap to the leader from Lucas Prada, who's our net race leader, is 45 seconds, so that's a gap to keep an eye on, and that's going to be Andre Livingston off into the grass.
That's a long way off there at turn 4, and so he found himself off at 3B, on the brakes trying to get it done at turn 4, still with dirty rear tyres there, so you can see he's trying to hold on to it, and then whoopsie daisy, round you go. Was under pressure from Jacques Seaver, who'd gone and got that one done. So pressure telling for Seaman Andre Livingston, who had a 0x instant race at Circuit of the Americas. He's not going to be so lucky this time here at Sonoma, but Pulisic chasing. I wonder whether he just has to pit now.
Yeah, because he's losing too much time, and Watson is not letting him through. To the inside goes Watson, to the outside goes Pedersen on the brakes. Can he try and go for the up and under here, down in towards Gilligan's Island? No, too far back. So you've got to imagine he'd want a pit now, because look at the time they're losing to Fraser Smith, but look how close Jack Sedgwick is. He's now only about a second and a half back, and then 4 seconds back is Aidan Young, who's got some insane pace. So at one point you're thinking, right, Pedersen's happy for a P3 in this train. Well, P4 and 5 aren't that far away now.
They're not, but keep an eye on the pace, because they're in the high 27s and low 28s. It was a 27 3/4 from Lucas Prada on the last lap, on board with a driver's eyes view of Nikolai Pedersen. This is the seat that you can get if you're in the World GT Championship. Working over the crest, down the hill through turn 6, third gear, waiting to stamp the power back down in the AMG Mercedes. Does so, gets to the gears change, then into 4th, but knows he doesn't really have an angle up into turn number 7 to go and make this move. And so once again, Nikolai, you are sitting down and realising I can't get there. I don't have enough. He'll flash the lights. He'll do what he can. He's going to every trick in the sim racer's handbook, but ultimately, it's not working. Adam Watson's read it.
No way through here for Pedersen, and Watson knows that Pedersen's going to be angry, going to be frustrated behind, so he can use that to his advantage and just defend wherever he can, as this time Pedersen goes to the inside. And what does Watson do? Goes even more to the inside, and there's nothing that Nikolai can do here to go through. It's just like he's trapped behind in third, but look who's right behind. Sedgwick is now not even a second back here. So if Nikolai Pedersen's not careful, Sedgwick will be one of those who can just creep behind and wait for the chance to go through, as Gabrielsen and Josh Booter are having a battle for P7.
Well, Leander Gabrielsen's actually into the pit, so that will depart him from the main group, and we'll see where he comes out by comparison to everyone else with 20 minutes to go. Over the top of the crest then and down into turn 4. We start watching still with the likes of Watson and Pedersen. I tell you what, if Fraser Smith has got on the radio and said, Adam, fight like a lion, right now I wonder whether he's got an MOD contract.
So he's got something to keep Pedersen behind, that's for sure, because Fraser Smith is loving this. He's very happy to let Adam Watson to do the defensive duties here on track and keep Nikolai Pedersen behind. And of course that's the reason why Fraser Smith and Watson are going so long as well. The more they go and the more time they kind of lose for Pedersen and Sedgwick and those behind, the better it is for Fraser Smith once he goes in and makes that pit stop, and only pit stop of the race. 19 minutes to go here, and the gap between Prada and Smith though has stayed the same over the past 4 or 5 minutes. So surprisingly, that gap isn't coming down, which I thought it would do.
In comes Watson, and I wasn't expecting that. Jack Sedgwick's going to follow down into the pitch. You've got to try and drive as fast as you can. The commitment cone is on the exit of the corner, not the entry. So Aiden Young also comes in, couldn't go any further on the fuel. I think we've just reached the critical laps.
Indeed, 18 minutes to go now, and this is going to be crunch time for many of the drivers. Of course, Prada's going to have to try and put the foot down and see what he can gain on Watson and Sedgwick and Young. You'd imagine he's got to be with Aiden Young at least, who's Lucas Prada, to see this strategy work. And the same goes for James Brume as well. He's 2 seconds back from Prada, so that's one to keep an eye on, as a couple of drivers are going through, but of course none of them there have pitted. Let's see what the gap is between Prada and Young, because Young's still in the pit lane and Prada's actually catching up. I think he might even get ahead of them all.
Well, he's coming out of the final corner there of turn 11 and out through turn 12. Watson's already gone. Aiden Young's getting up to speed. Here comes Lucas Prada. I think he's going to be on the back of Aiden Young here, and he's going to be a bit behind. Grabowski is black flag and hits the instant point limit. So the 41 again is going to get caught in penalty purgatory, but Prada now knows the last runs of this race, he has got to make some progress here. I've got him down right now as a net, what, 5th, 6th place?
Right, isn't it? As well, as we continue on, and let's see whereabouts Max Prada will be. So he's 1.3 seconds back from Aiden Young.
Leader in.
So he's in P5, and also Smith's in, so we'll see whereabouts he comes out here, but he's going to be, I'd imagine, in the net lead now, because Watson, of course, is in the lead and was behind him. So Fraser Smith has got such an opportunity.
He's driven fantastically here. Adam Watson has done his job to a T, and he has actually been able to keep that gap to Jack Sedgwick. Smith taking his pit stop at the moment and looking to just get himself out and away with 17 minutes left on the clock. Pedersen, the only one staying out longer. Anders Mira is then also another one who stayed out. Ben Ultra, Tommy Vidal has just come in to make his stop. Off onto the pace now. He's got a big gap, does Fraser Smith. Hold on for 16 3/4, and you're looking at a win, buddy.
Indeed, and what a chance that'd be. What a race it would be as well to hold on to the win. And of course, after all the defensive work as well that has been done by Adam Watson to keep Nikolai Pedersen behind, and to also give himself a big gap between himself and Smith anyway, just so that when the likes of Sedgwick and Young and Prada catch up, Watson could just do the defensive work again, and he's already got a decent gap ahead of behind Smith here. So this could be Fraser Smith's day to take the win here, and I thought he'd be up the front. Did I think he'd be fighting for the win though with 15 minutes to go? I certainly did not. Fraser Smith has had a really good drive.
So this is going to be the key stop. If Nikolai Perleson has found a way to save fuel and take less at this final stop than everyone else, that's going to be a cause of concern for everyone he was with. He's trying to overcut Watson as Evdoka is damaged and done for him. I think that's his engine there in the pit, just expiring. But you got battles everywhere. Anders Mira's going to come in. I expect Ben Altria will as well. This looks like David Baker in a bit of a scrap right now at the moment as he works over the top side of the circuit, trying to deal here with the likes then of Janis Scholtane. But here off the exit is Perleson. Where is Fraser Smith? This is going to be close. This is going to be really close. And Fraser Smith has to look to the inside. Perleson leaves the door half ajar. Oh, there's contact as they work on the exit. The two AMG Mercedes throwing at it. But it's a Falcon that soars to the race lead.
So close there between the top two and a slight bit of contact as well. And now Fraser Smith has to get on the attack of Nikolai Perleson, who of course was stuck behind Adam Watson for so long. And in the end, it's worked out for him. He now has that race lead and he knows how frustrated he was being stuck behind Watson and Smith. He's now got that chance to keep them behind him. So he'll do whatever he can now, Will Perleson, to keep that P1 spot. Of course, has had a win before this season. Can he go for two? We'll have to wait and see. But of course, this is a great chance for him to bring down that points gap to himself and James Brume, who's down in P7. You'd imagine that might be the best he can do. So a big opportunity now for Perleson to get back right within the grasp of that championship fight.
Fraser Smith's not fighting for a title, he's fighting for a win, and it's going to mean the world to him if he manages it. Nikolai Perleson managed to get 3.5 seconds in that stop. The question will be, has he got the numbers right?
Have to wait and see. That's the only thing you got to keep in mind. Sometimes you can do it by a lap or two. You put the accidentally put the wrong number in. I'd imagine he's not done so, but you never know. You never know. But I'd imagine that Perleson would have played it safe here until the end. Of course, has got the better of Smith, who at one point thought he's in the race lead. I'm going to win. Not anymore. Perleson got the advantage there, and of course, at least now with those two together, it's not going to be as harmful when Sedgwick and Young pass, because they've got to get past two cars and not one. So if anything, it makes it a bit easier for Perleson now, knowing the faster cars will be coming in behind. Not very long down the road. Of course, Grabowski's in, serving that black flag which he got earlier on, and it's not been Grabowski's day at all, has it, here around Sonoma. And looking through, of course, Vidal is 4 seconds ahead of Aidan Carter, who's done a great job to recover and be so close behind the back of Vidal.
Yeah, he really has done, and Aidan Carter, that is the mark of him as a driver, really good at just holding his mark and saying, look, I am going to be a threat every time I'm out there and running. Janis Scholtane has got 20 over Tristan Engelstad in AMS at the moment, but Engelstad, great recovery. Bit of cloud cover comes over the circuit as here's a battle with the Empire machine of Boots then finding himself then looking around behind, because that is the Anders Mira, trying to recover through. Now Mira would love to get up to 11th, would love to get to his teammate Gabrielson and sneak a top 10.
Indeed, that would be nice, wouldn't it? A nice top 10 to end off the day here. As Mira's putting the pace down on the back of Josh Boots. It's starting to get very cloudy here. Starting to get a little bit of darkness in Sonoma. And Mira now with a great running towards the hairpin, but not quite close enough, and just being a little bit more conservative through there and just sticking on the back of Josh Boot. But he knows that the opportunity is going to come at him very soon in this one, as Ben Bennyworth is in the pit lane as well. He's 26th here, so he'll drop even further back, and it's not been his race either. And I've noticed here, Jake, of course, a lot of our RAM drivers have fallen right to the back, and some of them are over a lap behind, and I think that's just proven how difficult this track has been today for all the drivers.
It really has been a tough circuit as Mira climbs the crest back down the other side on the roller coaster run to turn 4, looking for a way up into 11th place, and Josh Boot has not seen this easy, and I'll tell you who else won't be seeing it easy. Lucas Prada will have to get by his teammate Aidan Young to get a top 5 and to steal a couple more points with the way that it's going, with no Alexander Davidson here today. Will there be a look from Aidan Young, who's 8th in the championship, to say, look, we want someone from WSR to challenge? It might as well be you, Lucas. But right up underneath here at turn 7, looking for the drive now over to turns 8 and 8A, flicking through the S's where you flat out and straight line. This is turn 8 and now 8A through the right, up and over the top of the crest. Set yourself for turn 9. Anders Mira's closed, but we know the BMW might be one of the toughest ones on the bop.
Indeed, as Mira's now got a good run into turn 11, late on the brakes to go ahead of Josh Boot. He gets a good run into the corner, gets a really good exit as well. Of course, he's got to pin the exit and, of course, not give Boot the line into turn 1. He doesn't give Josh Boot the line into turn 1, and a great move there from Anders Mira. It is only a few seconds away now from possibly jumping up into the top 10, and, of course, after getting involved in contact earlier on, I think P11 he'd be happy with, but it'd feel even better to seal off a top 10 and get some decent points here. 4 seconds away from Gabrielson, 10 minutes to go. The battle's on.
If you want it, come and get it is the way it goes. So I think they are setting themselves up for a showcase as Gabrielson goes the long way around Aiden Carter. Can he get the drive off the exit of turn 6 and now motor himself to turn 7? He's got the inside commanded then. That Lamborghini there in the white and black is going to get the pass done. RAA see themselves up another one, and that's a good old-fashioned move there of I will go the outside to work to the inside.
Indeed, and still keeping ahead and still trying to make moves forward here is Ander Gabrielson. Of course, they've got a 3-second gap now to Tommy Vidal, so maybe there's a small chance that P8 could be on, but it just depends what he can do now in the next lap or two, because once you get to the range...
wide. Keep an eye on this lead because Nikolai Perlisson here. Fraser Smith's not giving up. He was wide at turn 2. This now works down the hill into turn 4, and if Fraser can line this up through turn 6, he's got a great chance at 7.
Indeed, has just got to keep the throttle pinned here, has Nikolai Perlisson. Of course, Fraser Smith there trying a couple of different lines here, trying to make something work so he can get a good run to maybe make that move for the lead. Of course, ahead of them is one of the lapped cars. I think that is Simon Andre Livingston ahead of them, so hopefully he doesn't get in the way and causes any trouble. That's the last thing these two need here with 8 minutes to go in this race, and the battle is certainly on. Of course, looking further back as well, Adam Watson is really being closed in by Jack Sedgwick. Canadian Young isn't that far down the road either, with Lucas Prada on the back of him as well, so third and below has got a really good battle here, and if they get really close together and really battle, that allows James Brumey to maybe get involved too from 7th.
Yep, he'll want to get in and score those points. We just saw the smoke screen there. This was Jacques Eva for Epic Sim Racing, just trying to put the power down too early in that Mustang through the exit. Creates a smoke screen out there as if he's trying to win a drift competition, but you won't get any style points for that one as it goes wrong. Under 8 minutes to go now, 0.4 of a second the gap. And also keep in mind that Adam Watson's only got 0.4 over Jack Sedgwick, and Young and Prada are closing. This is now going to be a 4-car scrap as well for the podium.
Certainly will be, and sometimes the most unexpected can happen, and anybody out of those 4 can end up finishing in 3rd, as Watson there making a bit of a mistake, as that wasn't because of that. There was a lapped car ahead of him and he had to avoid him as they went up the hill at turn 3. Battle for 3rd, Watson, Sedgwick, Young and Prada all trying to take that final spot on the podium, and Young and Prada will be very aggressive, trying to make their way through on Sedgwick and Watson. And of course, Watson himself will want to hold on to that P3 he's had since that pit stop. And here is the top 2 on the back now of the lapped car. Simon Andre Livingston is Pedersen and Fraser Smith, and that gap has been comfortable at around 3 to 5 tenths over the past few minutes. So as long as Pedersen keeps doing what he's doing, you'd imagine that P1 is locked in. But as we've seen before, many crazy things can happen with only a few minutes to go, and you'd imagine the nerves are there for those 6 battling for big spots in the race.
Yeah, well, it's 6 fighting for 3 on the podium. It means 3 bridesmaids out there. Sedgwick's going for a move now to the outside as Pedersen desperately is flashing on the lights. Sedgwick couldn't quite get it done. Aiden Young and Lucas Prada watch on. If they fight too hard, they'll allow James Boumet in late, and they don't want to do that with 6.5 minutes to go. Up over the crest of the leaders, but here for 3rd, it's on at this stage, working through turn 2, fighting every instinct the car doesn't want to do. It's practically like climbing a mountain the start of this lap.
Certainly is. And they all make it over the top of the crest and back down the hill into turn 4. nice and cleanly. Of course, Adrian Young is the closest to Sedgwick that he's been all race long here, so big opportunity now. And of course, if you're trying to make the move, you've got to catch the car ahead off guard, and that's what Adrian Young's got to do. But of course, the issue with this track is with it being quite tight, quite twisty. If you catch somebody off guard half the time and end up into contact, there's not much runoff and much leaning room here in trying to make a daring send. But it's starting to get dicey, and imagine the nerves that Adam Watson has here with 5 minutes to go. He's got Jack Sedgwick, Adrian Young and Lucas Pardo behind him. Three really quick drivers.
They are incredibly fast, and he knows how good the representatives are. He knows that Lucas Prado's driven at the highest level. He knows Aiden Young's one of the best up-and-coming sim racers. He knows Jack Sedgwick has got over a decade's worth of experience, and he also knows that he's doing a job to allow Fraser Smith to fight Nikolai Perlison for the race lead out there. So it's all of this that's put into one melting pot here just north of San Fran out there. We're not a million miles away from Sacramento and San Jose, but this right now is full-blooded on the battle here. Jack Sedgwick is not close enough to make the move, and in fact, Watson able to break away slightly.
And of course, the more that Watson can break away, the more it allows Adrian Young and Prado to maybe go for that move for Jack Sedgwick. Of course, that's the last thing that Adam Watson wants. He doesn't want Young going ahead of Sedgwick because he knows Young is quick. He knows Prado's really quick as well. And they'll be daring to make that move to get onto that final place on the podium. Look at the front as well. The gap is at some points down to 0.2 of a second between Pedersen and Smith, as well as this is the onboard of Fraser Smith all over the back of that Mercedes.
Fraser Smith is absolutely fantastic on the entries to these corners, but here's the issue. It's no good being good on entry right now, Nathan, if you can't get an exit.
You can see how much time he loses on the exit there. Does Fraser Smith. That gap was down to 0.2. It's back up to nearly half a second as they head their way back down into the hairpin, onto the brakes they go. So close to that wall on the left-hand side, and the same can go for the wall on the apex there as they make their way out the final corner. And it just seems every time, doesn't it? Fraser Smith catches up so much on the brakes and in the corner and the mid-corner, but just on the exit can't seem to get it.
Well, he just needs something here. He's maybe trying to scare Perlison off his line. He hits his marks well, maybe trail braking slightly through at turn 2. Over the top of this crash, dip down into 3A, up over the top, into 3, and now into 3A, and over the crest. And Perlison realising these are money laps. He's done this many a time before. He knows how to get these results out there. He knows he's got no drop rounds to work with. He knows he was behind the 8 ball on pace, but he knows everyone behind's fighting, and Fraser Smith is giving him a red-hot go. They started 9th and 10th respectively in this field. They're 1st and 2nd fighting for it. Look at the traffic now for the group in 3rd. They got to get by Livingston and Vonderlit fighting for position, and this is perfect now for Sedgwick to get his pick.
Indeed, this is going to get dicey, really dicey now. A couple of cars battling heavily for their position further down the field. They're not going to want to move out the way, but Watson wants them to. He needs to make some moves as Leander Gabrielson goes ahead of Tommy Vidal for P8, so another move made for car number 7. And Watson and Sedgwick are really closing down now on these laps cars. Look how close to the back of Watson that Jack Sedgwick is here.
He's got to run. He'll have to go the long way around if he wants to get it done here with 2 minutes, and he has to fall back into line to stop Aiden Young picking his pocket, and suddenly Jack Sedgwick has gone in the blink of an eye from attacking to defending here with 2 laps to go at Sonoma. Aiden Young wants to chuck his name in the hat and say, look, I want in, I want place, I want position. Prado's probably sat back there thinking, come on, sort it out, I've got championship to think about.
Indeed, Prado's going to be in the most annoyed position of all of them because there's nothing he can do. Stuck behind 3 cars when he's down in P6, he just got to hope carnage happens ahead. Of course, James Boumet, who's starting to close in, isn't going to catch up enough here before the end of the race. But Aiden Young all over the back of Jack Sedgwick, who will now be so nervous, so under pressure with about a lap and a half to go here. And again, it's allowed Adam Watson to slowly pull away.
It has, and Adam's going to be smiling here. He's invited the pressure, he's held on to it, and he's realised, I'll just hand it over to you, Jack. You fight in that Aston Martin that doesn't like the low gears and doesn't like the acceleration off of it here. Not necessarily a match made in heaven, Sonoma, for it. There's the Corvette. They're on board right now with Lucas Prada, who is trying to do what he can in the AMG Mercedes to say, look, settle yourself down, give yourself process, and now will there be a change between the WSR cars? No is the answer. It's deep in on the brakes from the pair of them as the last lap will now start for Nikolai Perlison, who can't shake Fraser Smith away. Still stuck resolute to half a second out there. It's a question of who finds what in the battles for first and for third here at Sonoma. What a round 13. It's lucky for some, this one. This has been an absolute barnstormer of a race. Down the hill into turn 4. Perlison is hitting his marks. Still has a couple car lengths to play with. And Smith looks further back than he has been. Contact between Young and Sedgwick. Sedgwick's dumped over into the left-hand side. He'll cry into his pillow on that one. But know this, Aiden's date with destiny right now, well, he just swiped left on it. Now here comes the movement over into turn 7, and it looks like Perlison here, so long as he hits his marks, is going to be happy. Sedgwick now drops behind Gabrielson here, and Prada will take a couple more points. Boumet will be looking at a couple more as well, but through turn 8A and over to turn 9, give credit to Fraser Smith. He's given this one a red-hot go, and arguably he would have thought after his pit stop he was home and dry, but the fuel looks absolutely on point for Nikolai Perlison, who rounds himself through turn 11 at Gilligan's Island, will now make his way to turn 12 and was perfect on that. What a dogfight between these two. Perlison prevails.
And what a race that was up to the end, and still Prada and Young were fighting up to the line, and I think Aiden Young holds on to that P4, and here is Tommy Vidal from pole in this second race, has driven a great drive, a couple of seconds ahead of Aiden Carter. It's Tommy Vidal that takes the win in the Pro-Am category, and Aiden Carter comes home in P2 as well, 10th overall. A great race for those two who reigned off the top 10, and then Janusz Scholtin will come and take the win for the AM class.
It's a big old result then as Janusz crosses the line. He knows he will take back the championship lead of AM for the Freigeist Motorsports team, and the Belgian will be very happy. So wide went Sedgwick. I don't blame Aiden Young for getting that move, and I argue as well, he got alongside. Jack tried to shut the door, it was too late.
Yeah, it was close there, close to call between those two, as this is the up high view. They're both went into somewhere that wasn't going to allow two cars wide, wasn't it? They both carried on into the corner, went really deep, but it was going to happen, wasn't it? One driver was going to get spun round in all of that. There was no way 4 drivers made it cleanly through that, and unfortunately Sedgwick is the one who got caught up in it all.
Yeah, you can see how aggressive it was to the defence. It was committed there from Aiden Young, and I wonder whether he's going to get dinged as far as getting that one set. But Nikolai Perlison is proving why Falcon Sim Racing are a team to be reckoned with. They won with James, well, they didn't win with James Boumet. They were second in race 1 with James Boumet. Nikolai Perlison says, up one notch, I'll take the win in race 13 of the season. Fraser Smith gets second, and Adam Watson rounds out your podium with Aiden Young and Lucas Prada 4th and 5th. James Boumet will get 6th place and will feel like he's got a good strong margin at the top of the championship with Leander Gabrielson 7th and Jack Sedgwick in 8th. Your winner in AM was Tommy Vidal in 9th position. Aiden Carter shadowing him home 2 seconds adrift. Anders Mira 11th, and knows that was a golden goose that he has let through the garden gate in 11th with his spin. Josh Boot and Phil Samways 12th and 13th with David Baker, and your AM winner Janusz Scholtin there in 15th position, as Jan Dufner would be 16th ahead of Ben Altria, William Guthrie, Dennis Grabowski and Alex Rogers. A tough second race there for Rogers. Tristan Engelstad will be second though, and so will minimise the damage as Benjamin Gregory and Jesse Payne Wilkins are 22nd and 23rd. Last car on the lead lap, Ben Cullen, and then 2 cars a lap down and 2 laps down. Jukko Vonderlit, Ben Bennyworth, Simon Andre Livingston and Jacques Eva. Michael Evdoka out of the race at the same time as Harrington Crowther as they ran into all sorts of trouble. So did Colin Sansom. Arthur Thurtle and Ivan Turnerson decided they wanted to make snow angels out there at turn 2 as they landed on top of each other, and troubles as well for Michael Gray and Axel Slijepcevic will find themselves then with retirement out there in the running overall. A chance then to talk to some of our drivers here as Tommy Vidal would get the win in the Pro-Am category and is here with us right now. Tommy, we call you Tommy Quick, and I think you were Tommy Calm out there, it had to be said. That every time we saw a pro try and dive down the inside of you at turn 11, you gave a lot of room to say, I'm not fighting you.
Yeah, hi guys. Yeah, I struggled a lot with the pace on this track. So I thought that it's better to give them the position than fighting, and so I don't lose any time back to the other classmates of mine. So I just try to manage my tires and watch behind for my opponents.
It's a very tough circuit. We saw how you got the wrong end of the stick then in race number 1, and so you had to battle yourself back into a position. But one thing we are noting with you, Tommy, is every time we're having these reverse grid races, you're always up there in the front 3 rows by the time that comes along. So what do you need to do in your race 1s to give you the platform then for these race 2s? Because it seems like you keep leaving yourself a lot of work on the table in the race 1s to mean that you have to go get the result in race 2s.
Yeah, I think I'm still very new at iRacing, so I'm training a lot on racecraft. So I'm quite quick to get some laps, but I still need some managing to train racecraft.
And so with that racecraft, you go to a very racecraft important circuit in most sport in 7 days' time. Does that give you confidence, or does the high-speed nature of a track like that one in Canada give you reason to be cautious?
Yeah, I think I have just tried some few laps. Never done any racing on it, so we will see. I have to do a lot of testing and see if I can get some confidence on the track.
Well, we hope that confidence will head along with you. Tommy Vidal at RAA Sim Sports 2, getting the job done in Pro-Am here today. Walking down the virtual paddock, Nathan Richards has caught up with your winner in Am, Janus Schultein.
Indeed. Janus, welcome in. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Perfect. So, a great afternoon, evening out there today. Of course, 2 wins in 2 in the AM class. Of course, first race in Sonoma, a very tricky one, of course, only 21 laps. So, I mean, heading into that one, of course, it was a very tight track. Drivers struggled to make moves. I mean, what was the kind of plan heading into that, knowing that you had to, as quickly as you could, pull away from those in your own class?
Yeah, I just got the track yesterday and did some laps. So I just try to get familiar for me with the track, because I don't have much time to learn these tracks. So it's just for me about setting laps and comparing my telemetry with Aiden. And then, to be honest, I quite like the track, which I did not expect on the beforehand, seeing the layout. And yeah, pole position and 2 wins. So the track suits me.
Certainly. And of course, heading into that second race as well with the reverse grid, it put you P4 at the start. I mean, what was the plan, knowing that you've got lots of fast drivers behind you? Is it about trying to maintain that top spot, or kind of just working where you can to allow some of the drivers through, just as long as you kept ahead of all those in that category?
Yeah, I just try to drive my own pace, and when they send it on me, I'll just let them through, but I'm not gonna lift to let them through. But yeah, they do sometimes do a cheeky send on the inside, so there's no point for me to defend that, and I just try to find my spots in the grid and then do my laps.
Of course, and the drivers around you, at least 4 of them had really poor evenings out here. So, I mean, the championship now is surely on, isn't it?
Yeah, it was until this week. I was in P1 the whole time, but then with the drop rounds being added, I dropped 10 places back behind Engelstad. So it's good to see that when it mattered, I'm back on P1 normally.
Perfect. Well, Yanis, thanks for popping in. Thanks to coming in for a chat, and we'll see you next time out at Mo Sports.
Yes, good night. Thank you.
Well, there you had Janis Scholten, your driver, though, who was second overall. I tell you what, give him some credit. Fraser Smith. Fraser, you jumped into this championship through the mid part of this season, looking just to pick up wins and results. And you must have thought after you'd come out of the pits, pitting with a 3-second margin, that you got it done. But there was the shock as Pulison found himself off pit exit.
Yeah, do you know what? I've got to say, massive thank you to Adam. It looked like he was defending a bit, which I appreciate that. I don't know how Nikolai managed to go an extra lap, because as soon as I was in the lead, I was saving every lap to make it to where I did. So yeah, he just played it perfectly, really. And the same as the first race, it was just impossible to pass him, to be honest.
Well, let's talk passing. So there were some drivers that are impossible to pass, but there are some drivers who you can get by. And it looked like from the early runs of that second race that you were able to be that driver starting ninth that got through all the dramas of the opening couple of laps, and it gave you that platform to get to the front.
Yeah, I just took my time a bit, really. And I think, I can't remember who was in front, but it was a Lambo and a Porsche. I was just waiting for them to battle a little bit and just try and get through, and it seemed to work. So yeah, mixed emotions, really. I wish I got past Nikolai at least once.
Well, it's bittersweet in some respects, but it should buoy you with a lot of confidence heading to Mo Sport. Do you feel like the nature of some of these corners here at Sonoma, that you've got a lot of these long labouring corners, they're very similar to the likes of Mo Sport? Do you think that you can basically build on what you've got going into that event, or are you looking at this as it's completely chalk and cheese?
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, the track next week's quite similar to the one we were just on, and they're quite similar in ways to like the Nürburgring. You know, there's no margin for error in a lot of the corners. I quite like them sort of tracks. I struggled at Kota, struggle when it's like a parking lot, really. So hopefully next week I can do the same.
Well, we'll wish you the best of luck as far as this one goes there. Fraser Smith, what a big run out there to go on through, as we are going to go quick fire in terms of our interviews. Nathan Richards stood by with Aidan Young.
Indeed, Aidan, welcome in. Of course, a really good evening today, of course. Heading into this one, you did say you was quite quick around here. I mean, how did that race go for you on a whole? Well, both races go for you on a whole.
Yeah, I think it went pretty good. I mean, I managed to prepare... voice crack. Managed to prepare myself a pretty good setup for the weekend, or not the weekend, the day. I'm forgetting English today, so I'm sorry if this interview's not going to be
We all do, don't worry.
English is hard, as I always say. The car was on rails. It was great. I mean, when I wanted it to turn, the car would turn, except for in race 2. Arguably a few times there where car didn't want to listen to my inputs, but I think this was, for me, the best setup I've ever made, like on my own without help. And I mean, it felt good. I think my best lap during the race, I did like a 27.3 in race 2, which surprised me because I thought Wimmy or my teammate Prada, I thought they were going to take the fastest lap from me, but turns out this Corvette, we were cooking all day long today. So, you know, it feels good. I got a 3rd and a 4th. I think that means an overall podium. So I'm happy with that, and now we can build with this momentum, take it into the remaining rounds of the season, and try and at least get one win. I think if I could just only get one, I'd be happy, and then the rest of the season would just be focusing on either top 5 or top 10 to end the points within the top 5, and say I had a best season of World GT in the Pro class.
Certainly, a great season is ahead for you, of course. We've got a few more others that we have to interview, so we're going to have to let you go quickly, Aidan. But we do wish you the best of luck heading into Mo Sport next week, and hopefully we'll see you back up on that podium.
Yep, see you guys next week.
Yeah, there you have it, as Aidan Young was through. What a great start, though, for a debut for Alex Rogers jumping in the Pro-Am category. Alex, we've only got you for one question because we're in quick-fire mode at this stage, but what a great run you had in race 1, and a shame about what happened to you in race 2. Just sum up your race then as it's gone through, and how it was jumping into this series then for the first time, having a good run at it.
First race was kind of unexpectedly good. I just kind of focused on my own race, and I was running a Long Beach set, so I was kind of doing what I could with the car. But the second race is racing, you know. I went for the outside on a turn, and the gap just closed up, and then got involved in a wreck, you know, where there's a spinning car, and I went the wrong way. As somebody just said to me, I zigged when I should have zagged, and that was what happened. But yeah, great fun. Really well organised series, so thanks to you guys for putting it on, and yeah, had great fun.
Well, it's a real pleasure to see you out there. We hope to see you battling as well in Mosport, up as high as you were in the race that we got. Alex Rogers there joining us and getting it all sorted. Finally, Nathan Richards has caught up on a quick-fire interview with Benjamin Gregory.
Indeed. Ben, welcome in. Can you hear us?
I can. Hello.
Perfect. So, an interesting race out there for you and many others, of course, battling through the mid-pack and trying at some points to make your way up to the front. I mean, explain to us quickly, how did those couple of races go for you? Because it seemed like for so many drivers, it was such a tricky task to get there on track today.
I think, honestly, the heat was a big one, like, both in my room as well as on the track. Like, I'm quite sweaty now because I forgot to take my jump off. The tyres were just starting to cook themselves for that whole race. But I think, honestly, considering how the rest of my season has gone, being quite unlucky, but showing little flashes of pace, today was quite good. 2 podiums in class was a lot more than I expected, especially since the BOP.
Certainly, and we do have to quick fire through our interview, so we're going to have to let you go here, Benjamin, because we've just got to get through our interviews quickly. But a big thank you for popping into us here for a chat. Hopefully, we'll see you back up on the podium next time out in the AM class.
Yeah, thank you very much, guys. Cheers.
Yeah, wonderful running here today, and in 7 days' time, the battleground will be set for Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, otherwise known as Mosport. This is Canada's home of motorsports, and for those who have never seen a race around here, they used to race this in Formula One back in the 1960s. This is a lightning-fast circuit that has all of the hallmarks of trying to set up for big overtaking action. 8 p.m. British summertime. You want to jump in with us on May 4th for your Monday night's worth of sim racing from the entire team that's brought this show to you, from Hugo Louise, the 2011 iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series champion on the cameras, from the likes of Nathan Richards, who's been alongside with me. My name's Jake Sperry. Big day in the World GT Championship, because this has been where you step up or you fall away. Drivers tired of being knocked out of contention. Others thinking that this is going to be a season where it doesn't end the way they want to. But critically, it's one where the Falcons are starting to fly. Boumet with a second, Poulsen with a big hold win. This is setting up for a grandstand championship as we head ourselves to Mosport in 7 days' time.